Hello, 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 hello. One more hello. It's Corey
Hello.
here, back with my co-host Elise Rothman. So excited to be back. It's been too long, and wanted to welcome everybody to the latest bLU Talks Flip Your Script virtual event. So Elise, welcome. How's
Thank you.
it been?
Thank you. This is Elise with Flip Your Script Coaching. I'm super excited to be here. Corey, you know what I realized?
What's that?
This same time last year, we had an event. It starts popping up, on your timeline. So we're really on schedule. I mean, we kind of are like, oh, yeah, let's schedule the next event. But it seems to be like we are really hosting these events at the same time each year, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I feel like we started in June, the first one we did. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I would say this is our 1 year anniversary, but I think this a year ago was our second event.
But we did one in June this
Yeah.
year. So we were like June and now we're
Oh.
in September. So we are like every 3 months or so. So we're on track. It's super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. So, but it has been a while, and I don't want to take too much time because I don't want to bring on our first guest soon. But how
Hmm.
have things been?
Great. Things are awesome. We just had this discussion behind the scenes that I'm actually in your neck of the woods, at least closer than normal. I'm in Maine visiting my family. My sister had a little baby. So I'm visiting my niece, Mabel, who's a little over 3, and Jude, who is now a new being in the world. And I'm in my RV, which that hasn't changed. Take RV, will travel. And so it's been exciting. So I've been on the road for a couple of weeks and I'll be on the road for probably a little over a month. Elliot's back at Manatee Landing Retreat, keeping the vibe going. Things are going awesome there. So things are great.
That is awesome. And so I mean, nothing has changed with the resort. You guys are still running it. Everything's perfect. It's just that
I
you're
love that you call it a resort.
well. I feel like I've heard you say that different times, so I'm just gonna.
We've decided that it's an everyday retreat. So you can come and retreat from your everyday. Things are growing exponentially. We have some really cool things happening in the works. We can't really talk about them yet. Elliot's like, don't say anything, but it's super exciting. We are expanding and growing. So there'll be more what we call Yum Life destinations in the future where you can come and hang out and raise your vibe with us and grow a life you love, which is what this week is all about. It's about flipping your script, right? Being really aware and intentional with your thoughts, because those are what form your beliefs, and our beliefs are what cultivate and grow the life that we're living. And so I'm excited to see what's in store this week, starting with our first guest. Should
Absolutely,
I
yeah,
say his name? George
yeah,
Morris.
for sure. George Morris is joining us here any moment, and I'm just glad to hear that so much good has been happening for you and Elliot, and thereby happening in the world because you guys are, of course, paying that forward. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and and just really quickly, I'll just say much the same on my side. We've been moving forward with everything. Our events got rescheduled by a couple of months, but
Hmm.
we're closer than ever now to finally running them. It's just that they put some new restrictions in right before the events. This is our 2 Canadian events, and the interesting part is I think both of them we could have run. So this is different because it's not like they said you can't run the events, we have to move them. We could have run them, but they put so many new restrictions in like a week before.
Right.
Like I don't think I want to be training and teaching people these new restrictions. And I mean like conditioning, right? We're conditioned to think one thing, and then to have to show up and say, "Here's my proof of vaccination. Here's this. Here's that." I didn't know if I wanted to do that whenever a week ago you didn't have to do that.
Right. Exactly. Well, you know what? Everything's in the perfect timing, whether we know it or not. I mean, if we think about our lives and look back on events that got changed or things moved or they didn't happen exactly as planned, when we look back at them in retrospect or retro perspective, as I call it, we recognize that everything really unfolded perfectly. And if we had just gotten out of the way and enjoyed the ride, as I call it, right? Imagine how much greater and sweeter the moments would have been, even though those events sort of flipped from what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at it like we'll be if everything settles down because we're right in the middle of a wave. If everything settles down, which is even already seems like it's starting to, in a few months we'll be able to have more people. Like the event will be bigger and better anyway. And then the bLU Talks book we're working on. We're about to start working on the New Year one. We're finishing up a previous one. We still need to get your story, by the way. So now you'll be the New Year one.
Okay, this week is my intention is that this week that's happening.
Okay, so if it does, that's what we're working on right now. And so we're working on the New Year one. So I'll put that out there to the universe that if people are looking to be in the Blue Talks book, now would be a time to reach out to me. One of the things, I'll put one last thing out there and then we'll bring George on. It's 111, so
Sure.
I'll put this out there. That something I'm planning to put together in 2022, haven't announced this to anybody, just starting to formulate the idea, is a Blue Talks Awards event. And so that's something that I'm really exploring right now, where it would be people that have been in the Blue Talks brand would be up for nominations. We would have people voting on it, but then also have, which I think will be really fun, some like legend awards. So some of the people that have come on with us, for example, like a Mark Victor Hansen and stuff like that, and do some legend awards. We'll put out some names. They won't even know we put the name out until we vote, and then because I don't want to say, hey, you didn't win. But
Right.
put the names behind the scenes and then announce maybe 10 winners like the Bob Proctors of the world or Les Brown or what have you, and honor the awards. So this is something that's right now in the works.
Corey, I have to just tell you, you are a visionary of all visionaries. I mean, it takes a visionary to attract a visionary, that's for sure. But you have these visions, and you are the prime example of, if you believe it and you see it, the possibilities are limitless because you're a creator, a true creator, and there's limitless ideas and visions that you have, and and the boundaries aren't there. The only reason something doesn't happen in one's life is because of a belief, a boundary, right? And you don't have, and you're, well, listen, Corey, our minds are always set. Every single one of us has a mindset, but where is your mindset? A lot of people don't talk about that. We're like, we have to get a mindset. We all have a mindset, but where is our mindset? Love
it. Well, when I bring George on here, I want to have a discussion about this book that I just cracked open. I'm about halfway through. And because this event, we talk a lot about mindset. It's perfect timing. I'd love to explore this with both of you. I think this is George's alley as well. So let's bring on George, because you and I, of course, not only can we chat for a long time, we also will get back to some of this stuff later on anyway throughout the week. So let's bring George on, make some magic happen, and start setting some minds and getting some vision, creating some new stuff right now with our vision.
Absolutely.
So George Morris, excited to have you here today, George. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Corey. I'm very pleased to be here. It's like your effort that got me here. You're the one that thought I could actually speak. You're the one that thought that my message was something that needed to be put into a book. And
now here you are, George.
I'm very much of an introvert scientist, and so those things pulled me out and got me to this point where here I am. I'm talking to you. I've watched these Blue Talks, flip your script events from the very beginning of them. And I never thought I would be one of the people talking on one.
There you go. A prime example right here with us today. George, it's a pleasure meeting you. This is our first interaction together, so I'm excited to learn more about you and your message, and glad that you hopped out of your introverted self to be here with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And George, from watching, because I know you've watched a lot of these, where we usually start is to get the guests to tell us just a little bit about themselves. I told at least a little bit about your background, but can you tell us just a little bit about what you do? And of course, we can dive in deeper, so you don't have to worry about how much time you spend on it, but just to give people a little bit of a glimpse.
Well, to start off with, I'm a 74-year-old chemist, and I've been a natural health advocate who's been promoting early disease detection for over 40 years. Really, since the turn of the century, year 2000, I've helped clients both with clinical testing and energy compatibility analysis. With your insistence, I did write my chapter called Why Did Western Medicine Fail COVID-19 Patients? There was a chapter in the Business Life and Universe, Volume 4. And when I look at it, I'm working on the reverse direction. How does the universe affect life, and how does life then affect business? So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, that's a bold chapter, George.
Yeah, it is.
I'm wondering if he can hear me. Can you hear me, George?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just wondering. Was it?
We had some problems earlier, and we just disconnected the mics and the headphones, and so now this is just the laptop doing its own thing.
Well, it's working well. I can hear you loud and clear.
And I'm in not in my preferred location, and so my backdrop is not the best. But I was afraid that the people were going to do lawn mowing with it during this thing, and so I chose a more soundproof area of our house in order to talk.
Well, it's working.
Yeah, Cora, you know your audience. I'm open to questions. What do you think they want to know? You know, we've known each other for a few years now. You've seen some of the stuff that I've done. Where is your audience?
Well, I feel like, and Elise, of course, has a great feel for this as well. But I feel like, what we're always talking about mindset. So whether it's health related, whether it's, obviously internal, like in our mindset itself, I feel like people are looking to grow and learn and expand and find out how they can be the best version of themselves. But maybe what we can do is talk first about how, one of the things you and I talked about the first time we met, which was at the New Media Summit conference, is George asked for a piece of my hair, like a bit of my hair, which is not something people usually ask you. Like I drove him, I think, back.
Where would you get your hair from? Your eyebrow?
I think his arm.
I can't remember where it was. Yeah, probably maybe my arm. But I think he asked me to mail. No, you took the hair when we were there, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think he was driving me in his car because I had a rental car, but we were at a conference where we had like a golf cart to drive around in. But I think,
Fun.
George, you drove me from your car wherever we were at back to my place I was staying. And he asked me, he said, well, here's what I do. And it was like, I take a piece of your hair and then I essentially figure out what is the best, I guess, and George, you can talk about this more than me, but best combination of whether it's supplements or what have you that would suit you best so that it's customized rather than everybody buying just a one size fits all. So maybe you can talk about that, George, because I think that was super intriguing to me.
Okay, well, that's, believe it or not, I'm back to that. in that, what I was trying to share with you is that our bodies actually know what's best for them. It is not those people that we ask questions of, because they're just giving their opinion based upon what they perceive to see is the problem. Mm-hmm. And what I'm working on now is basically talking about the fact that our problems are actually hidden cracks. Mm. Just like with the Surfside Tower that collapsed in Miami, they were working on the roof, but it was the cracks in the foundation that caused it to fall down. And what I'm working on as far as longevity and what I was trying to work into with you was the idea that if we don't fix these cracks in our foundation, as we get older and older and older, they will come back to haunt us. They will come back and bother us. And so the way you fix the cracks in the foundation is not by understanding what you think that you need, but it's by asking your body to tell you what it needs. And so at that point, I was just looking more at herbs, but I've even gone back before herbs to just look at energy. And it's like, how do we influence those energy cracks? At least we call them mind something. I can't remember the name, but they were. But the idea is they would be, how can you heal those? And that's where affirmations come in. And so now, what I would recommend is, first thing is to find what affirmations actually resonate with you. And then after we start with that process of restoring that energy communication, that intelligence, then we look for those herbs that now continue to go ahead and restore and bring you back to normal. And then we go through a process of continuing that on. And so I'm still doing that. I was basically forced into it because no matter how I tried to change clinical did not want to be changed. The chapter that I wrote, I basically said this was going to be my last effort. And I had a really beautiful conversation with Emily, and she basically said that I just need to own the fact that I'm actually a researcher. That what I want to do has not been validated. And therefore, what I want and why I'm here today is basically to say that what you need to do, what I want people to do is join me. And this to me is just that opportunity to put that message out and say, please join me. Please want to understand how this process can change your life for the better. So,
I want to clarify for those that are wondering. When George mentions Emily, he's talking Emily Harrison, friend of the show here. But I just wanted to clarify, just so people might say he randomly just said Emily. So I want to make sure people might go, "Who's Emily? Where's
His imaginary spirit guide?"
You know what it's like, right? If we hear somebody's name, then we start trying to imagine, do I know that person? Was Emily on here before? And I say that Emily is a rock star. We had her on our influencer vault last week. She's crushing it. In fact, that's where George decided to sign up and have an open call with her and have a kind of a prelim call. And Emily just ran her biggest event ever, live event at Shasta, Mount Shasta. And at least because you're into events, you'll appreciate this. And she said it live, so I'm not revealing anything on the air that she wouldn't tell you here herself. But she brought on $210,000 worth of clients that weekend.
That's amazing. And actually, it's funny. Did she just run it?
Yeah.
That's where my son has been in his Pleasure Way RV out in Mount Shasta. So they were in that same energy field and vortex.
Yeah, she lives near there. So she probably lives near where he's at right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
She's in Lake Tahoe, which I think is maybe 2 hours away. Or something.
About 2.5 hours. Yeah. From Mount Shasta. That's
so
amazing.
I just want to clarify what George was saying. That was Emily, and Emily knows her stuff. So I'm glad that she shared that with you, George. And I mentioned that, and I do agree with that. You need to own the researcher side and just accept it, and you can then validate stuff that most people can't. Like, you're kind of mixing what some people might call woo-woo with scientific evidence, and most people can't do that. So I mean, you're in a unique situation.
Yes, and it's very Joe Dispenza like.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dispenza. Are you familiar with Joe Dispenza, George?
I'm familiar with his intellectual understanding, but what I'm saying that's not where I'm at.
No, but he takes science and he uses science as the
language. But science thinks it knows the answer. That's the problem.
Well, when we take a hair sample, we're getting some tangible.
No. It's purely energetic. We're looking energetically at the connection. That hair sample is just allowing me to have a connection to you, so that the universe can come through and just use me as an instrument that is a detecting instrument, so that I can ask yes/no questions about what you need.
Well,
and so I go through 300 different affirmations to see which ones actually resonate with you. And so when I tell people which ones resonate with them, they are thrilled. When I tell people what herbs resonate with, they say, "Oh, that sounds very good." So the idea is I have zero input. Believe it or not, I have zero connection to conscious emotion. And therefore, it makes it so that my ability to do these yes/no questions, my mind isn't coming in here all the time and trying to influence what it is the result. And so I can become a very clear channel for that process. And it's taken me a while to understand that is a gift. At times I thought it was a loss, but actually it's potentially a gift if I use it correctly. And so that's what I want to do, is I want to help people understand that it used to be that I thought that I just wanted to change healthcare. I've wanted to reduce down disease burden. I've wanted to merge woo-woo with science and just change the entire thing. But I'm now 74, and it may not be that is what is my goal. But if I just help people one-on-one, I have no idea the significance that person will have in the future. And so I've refocused my effort to what I know I can do, and wait for people to want to come and join me to do the things that I need other people to help me with. And so that's just the shift that COVID-19, that's the shift that, I guess being beaten down a lot of times has finally made me realize that you can either continue to get beaten down, or you can try to excel where you can excel.
I have
We would
to
call
share
that
too.
flipping your script, right, Corey?
Yeah, and I have to share
You
too.
flipped your script, George. Real time.
Well, you wouldn't know this, Elise, and I have to share this. Now, you and George are both in Florida, and whenever George and I met at a conference in Tampa, at a big retreat center, and
When you said golf cart, I had a feeling you were in Florida.
yeah, 100%. And but I have to share that George at the time said, and he said this while he was speaking to the audience. I'm not sure that I'm the right messenger. I'm not sure if my message is powerful enough. Meanwhile, and I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but it's a common speaking term that says you don't care how much somebody knows until you know just how much they care. And George was crying, and the audience was crying. And I still don't know, George, if you know the significance of that. And that was because they could truly feel you actually care. Whereas some speakers go up and it's like, I've told the same thing 40 times or 100 times or 1,000 times, and I'm just getting through the motions. And I might tear up when I'm supposed to tear up and all, but people could tell with you it was authentic. And so you have something, and I don't realize if you know it, but you have something with that most people don't have. And that goes back to the point about how passionate you are about making this difference. So even though you've been maybe beat down, I just want to put that out there that you were one of, I don't want to take anything away from anybody else, but one of the most impactful speakers at an event where you told me I didn't deserve to be up there speaking. So I just want to put that out there for you at least to know as well.
Perspective.
I'm learning to accept things a little bit more. If you remember, it would be, I was almost defensive at the idea that people appreciated what I had to say, because I didn't believe that my message could get through, because I had tried and tried to get my message through, and I've spent the last 5 years trying to figure that out, and I appreciate the fact that that you've kept after me, Corey. You've kept after me and wanted me to succeed.
Well, I believe your message is important, and one of the biggest things is you are truly so passionate about making a difference in the world, and you can't find that with everybody. So when you see that with somebody, you want to help them get their message out to more people. I mean, to me, that's just that just comes with the territory.
I mean, I've looked back at it, and I just believe it or not, I've always wanted to make a difference. I didn't realize that as things were happening, but with COVID and with this opportunity to let my hair is a ponytail right now, and what I've realized is, as my hair kept growing out longer and longer, my realization that I'm actually a radical became stronger and stronger. And it went back to the days in the 70s when that I was a radical. I had some radical ideas, and they didn't quite manifest the way I wanted to then. But when I look in a mirror, I like what I see. And for the photo that that's on my webpage, someone else's opinion of what was my I don't know what you call it, but image, I guess, that was never my image of me. This is actually my image of me. And so I hope to be able to be authentic with the image that is me, with the opportunity that I'm trying to present, and change a few lives.
Well, one of the things I want to show here while we're talking, let's see if I can. You guys see that? Elise, can you see that?
I can.
So George was talking about letting his hair down. When I met George, which I think it might be 4 years ago, I'm guessing here, that's how short his hair was. There's no ponytail back there.
That's the picture we have as his post.
Yeah, and that's the picture I was talking about, where he actually, that was at the New Media Summit, and where he had people in tears. So, but I just wanted to show when he said he let his hair down. You know me, I like to always kind of put a visual to it. And so, yeah, George, you truly have let your hair down. And I mean, I do kind of in some ways, and it's not my story to live, but I do like in some ways that you've come full circle back to sort of where you started, and recognize that that's what you're passionate about to begin with. And then you kind of decided, well, I want to take over the world and share this. And then decided, you know what, maybe and everybody's different. But in your case, maybe the story is you need to go one by one. You need to be like the Pied Piper and get one person behind you and then another person and build a following that way.
I really like what you said, George, because there's so much behind what you're saying when you said, if you help one person, you don't know what that person's going to do with their lives once they become the best version of themselves. And I had a similar aha in my life when I thought I would be standing in front of a stage in front of thousands and thousands. And now we have this amazing retreat where people are coming one at a time or little small groups. But who knows when they leave how their lives are affected and how they're going to now make the impact. It's that 6 degrees of separation. So one life, one person's well-being could be the game changer that you have wanted to seed from the beginning. And that's powerful.
Yeah, we don't know, and George, not to interject, I'll let you jump right in. I was just going to say follow up with what Elise said there. I mean, you don't know when you could help somebody overcome something in their health that they never thought possible, who could be the sister or brother of somebody who could actually pass laws that could change things. I mean, you just don't know, like your point.
Or it could be they themselves that are making that impact, and they needed to be set free, or whatever it is that they needed. George, I have one question for you that kind of keeps popping up for me. What is it that you think changed for you in the 5 years of this journey, kind of coming into your own and letting your hair out or letting your hair grow? What changed? You said you were standing on stage and you were almost like offended that people recognized that you had this message to share. So something must have shifted within your beliefs or your understanding of yourself in that time.
Well, at least that part is still somewhat hidden within me. I don't really understand. Mm-hmm. But I do see the change that over the 5-year process is that I was for so many years, I was acting as a chemist and as a clinical chemist. And so everything that I viewed was through those lenses of clinical and disease. Even though I was working in early disease detection, everything was still looking through that lens. And it's only very, very recently, basically because of COVID-19, because of my chapter, because of things that have happened, that I've been able to shift it to not looking at disease, but looking at longevity, looking at the opposite of that, and what opportunities that brings in. Because all those opportunities in the disease side were all just shut down over and over and over again. In licensing technology for Emory University, setting up labs, but inability to get physicians to order tests. Now I flipped that, and as a researcher, I have the ability to work with whoever I want now. The government has changed the rules recently enough within the past 5 years to make it so that as a research lab, I can actually give you back results. Amazing. If you go back 5 years ago, as a research lab, I couldn't give you back results unless before we started the project that I created a whole bunch of paperwork where you were requesting the results at the end of the research project. Otherwise, it was just illegal for me to do what I can do now. And it's that opportunity that not only I have, but everybody has this opportunity. The idea is the technology and the processes that I want to promote are used in biotechnology more than any other process for research. They're used to validate everything that has ever been done, including vaccines. And one of the things that I put a post up on my Facebook page, and I actually said that we might as well be a little controversial here. I said that I waited, and I finally did take, and my wife took the J&J vaccine. And this is even though ever since in the late 1990s, I have posted anti-vaccine policy Twitter information. And it's not that I have changed my idea about vaccines. I was never against vaccines. I was against the current vaccine policy. And what you have is people now that are theoretically being classified as being anti-vaccine, when in reality, if you could talk to them long enough, they're anti-current vaccine policy. And what I put in my chapter was, if you are going to believe that a vaccine is your only answer, then you are going to accept the hundreds of thousands of deaths that we have. But if you believe, like other people, that the goal is to prevent people from going to the hospital, then you would promote things that help people not go to the hospital. And so now we have Regeneron. And why is it promoted? It's promoted because it keeps people out of the hospital. But we never evaluated whether or not, say, quercetin along with zinc or iodine or any number of things that were used in past virus epidemics, whether or not SARS, whether or not swine flu. There is actually a history of using herbs, and no one was able to say, why don't we try some of those things and logically monitor whether or not they're successful. And so that was that was what I felt was extremely wrong with this process, is that in China and in other countries, they looked for ways to keep people out of the hospital. And what did we do? Nothing. we sat back and said, oh, well, we're working on our vaccine, and we're going to try to keep you alive as long as we can. But that was the extent of it. And that was so frustrating. And so I now, because I wasn't able to make any inroads there, that is what flipped me and basically said, well, maybe I can make some inroads over here, and I can help individual people. My chapter was my last effort at trying to provide enough information for other people to change what they're doing. And if they're not going to do it, I guess I have to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard to understand that people are on their own journey. You know, everybody's got their journey. All the information that we have, whether it's here physically that we can consciously see or we tap into universally, right, from the universe, is available to everyone. And it's very frustrating for somebody like myself or Corey or yourself. When we see it, we can feel it, we can tap into it, we can make the magic happen. And we want so much for somebody else to do it. And when we see that they're maybe not tapping in where they could, it's like we're not doing enough, or, you know, what could we be doing more? But there's a lot of judgment in that. And when I finally set myself free of that judgment and saying, you know what, who am I to think I know better for them, what their journey is? It's very freeing, which allows the work that you're doing to actually be more powerful, because you don't have all that here. And you're now a clear vessel for receiving the information for those who are ready, for those who are ready to receive it.
And I want to add one thing too, Elise, just on this idea and this topic as well. And George, I think this is you would agree with this as well, but there's no reason you have to. Just I feel like you might. But one of the things that I guess frustrates me, and this is outside of COVID. So, like, as most people know, I kind of sit around the middle rather than trying to take a side, because, and I say take a side, I just mean it's better for me in my world to just kind of sit in the middle, be neutral to it. But one thing that frustrates me both with this situation and with weight, and I'm not saying I'm above it or better than it, but is like, I'll go to the weight one first. Most cases, what do? We wait till somebody is overweight and struggling, and then say, here's how we're going to treat the fact that you're overweight, rather than ever educating them on how to keep their weight down in the first place. And I feel like it's the same thing here, where we're not actually educating people on how to build their immune system up. And we're just saying, don't worry, we'll get the Band-Aid, which, like George said, we'll just wait and wait and wait, and we'll give you an answer. But basically, you're putting Band-Aids all over your body. Like, I think there's some people that have immune deficiencies. That's a different thing. But somebody who doesn't, why aren't we also investing just as much money educating people how they can improve their immune system to battle this thing in the first place? I'm just talking out loud. That's what frustrates me, is we're always about, let's fix it when it's broken, rather than any preventative maintenance so it doesn't get broken. Love to get your thoughts on that, but my thinking of that.
Well, it goes even way beyond that, in that the FDA is there to basically prevent us from doing anything that doesn't have a real financial reward to it, to someone.
He just nailed it right there. Boom. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Say no more.
If there's not a financial reward, Regeneron, they had the money, so that they did the clinical trial and evaluation, to show that they could help keep people from severe disease. But I can tell you that there are a lot of herbs that could do the exact same thing with less side effects, with better response. And because there wasn't the money behind promoting that capability, it was shut down. And so even this process that I'm talking about requires us to actually hack the medical system. We have to be able to find ways to provide people with whatever it is their body is asking for. And right now, I can go back to Corey's hair, and I can tell him that, hey, these are the herbs that you should be taking. And Corey will say, well, where do I get them? And how do I put them together in the right proportion? Well, that process is part of hacking the system. And it's possible, and if I can help people do that, and that's what I want to train people to be able to do.
Well, I'll be sending you my hair
I can only help so many people, but other people can help so many other people.
I don't know if you caught what Elise said there, George, but she said she'll be reaching out to you so she can send you a hair sample.
I will. You can have it from, I have plenty of hair. Arm hair, hair on my head, whatever hair you want. I have a question.
Actually, because of the changes in cell phone cameras, if I just have a high resolution image, that works. I don't actually have to have a strand of hair anymore. But it has to be like 2 megapixels or better. Plain background, whole body, and it doesn't have to be facing me.
What do you mean whole body?
So that your whole aura is encompassed within the photograph.
Oh, so it's not just a piece of hair.
No. What I'm saying is I can have a photo, but the photo needs to capture your aura.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have a chat after this week for sure. I'm curious. I love that information. I believe that we all have all the information. I want to just plant one seed because I think that this is really important for all three of us and anyone who's listening who is frustrated because they don't feel like they're making enough of a difference for somebody else in their life. All of the information is available. We don't need a system to be designed to teach us anymore. We can access, we have Google, we have all of these YouTubes, we have all these Pinterest, any TikTok, any resource that we want is available. And so if somebody's ready, they will find it. And that kind of takes a lot of the pressure off of who we are and what we're doing. We can still be available and help somebody access that information. But to stand and say, well, we need to, and they are not, and these poor people aren't, that in and of itself, from the world that I live from and resonate with, is unfair to those that we think aren't getting what they need. Because we do have access. We can tap in. We don't even need a phone or anything. We can literally tap in through meditation. We can tap in through clearing the mind. There are so many ways. So I want to just set everyone free in this idea that somebody isn't getting something that they necessarily deserve or it's being held from them. There is an industry, and many of them have a lot of resources to what are they doing there? They're getting into our mindset and it's making us think that medical is the only way, right? Or this pharmaceutical is the only way. And that's because they have access to resources that not many of us, George or Corey or myself, have. But that's the only difference, is that they're out there and they are resonating in our minds and making us think a certain way. And we can choose to believe that or choose to go and find our own truth. And I think that that's what we're all here to help people do, is to find their own truth and to shift their own perspective and focus on a perspective that's going to work for them.
So agree, Elise. Couldn't have said it better. And Elise and George, on that note, not to wind us down, but I know our next guest will be coming up shortly. and I think she's logging on now. So, George, the most important question, perhaps, you said that this is what you're doing with people and helping people with. So how do we send people to you? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
The best way is to connect by email, and it's iam@hackingwellness.info. INFO.
IAM at
hackingwellness.info.
Basically, I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Right. And I stands for intent plus action plus monitoring equals transformation.
I love
like
that. So that's what I am stands for. That's pretty powerful, George.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to put that in the, we'll call it show notes, but I'm going to put it in the comments for now. So people can reach out to you. And George, anything else you want to add before we let you run off with your day? And you know, of course, thank you for helping us make some magic happen today.
Well, if people want to connect with me on Facebook, my group is called Engaging the Force. And so you can connect with me that way also. And I just want people to understand that I'm not telling people what they need to do. I'm telling people they need to understand what their body wants. And that people can learn to do that with self-muscle testing. People can learn to do that through various forms of meditation and introspection. I do it using a pendulum. So that's, and I know your last question is what have I learned and what would I tell my younger self? And Corey, I thought about it and I couldn't come up with an answer because I can't even remember what my younger self was like. But the only thing that I would say is that if I could tell myself something, I would say spend more time doing that introspection and less time thinking about what's happening in the world.
And that's a good flip your script mindset too.
I love it, George.
Well, mindset.
For somebody who says he's not comfortable doing this stuff, you absolutely crushed it, my friend. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a long-time viewer of this, right, since the first event. So I appreciate you for that as well. So I thank you, my friend. And now that Elise and I mean, I've known what you've done for a while, but now that Elise knows as well, we're going to wave the flag for all the great work you're doing, and we're going to aim to send people your way. So, George, thank you so much for joining us today. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, George. Great meeting you.
Awesome. So we'll let George run, and I see our next guest is about to jump on. And Elise, as you know, I'm doing double duty, so I'm going to bring our guest on, jump right in, and then I'm going to be jumping over to a second interview and then jumping back again. I only have 2 times that happens this week, but it was scheduled long before us, and so I had to try to make it all work. But I knew Elise is my.
But you should be able to hop on towards the end of our time, right?
I'm very close to that. Like it's within a minute or 2. So, and remind me later, I want to talk about this book because I want to get your take on it. And
yeah, for sure.
I think it would be very valuable. Actually, George, you're probably still listening. I think I'll talk to you about it later off air, but I think this book could help George a lot as well, you know, with just in terms of, because the book is about reprogramming your mind, and she goes into the different layers of our subconscious and how we can actually get rid of old thoughts. And anyway, it's pretty powerful. So
I would be happy to chat with George too and help him clear and delete some of those old files that no longer support his new operating system.
Love it. Awesome stuff. So here is our next guest. And I just realized I have never pronounced her name in live. And so I'm going to probably butcher it. Is it Dayna or Dayna, or how am I pronouncing it?
It's Dayna.
Dayna. Okay. That's what I was thinking of originally. And then I started second guessing it. And then I was like, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. So I'm going to ask rather than just butcher somebody's name in error. So I thought Dayna, but then I thought maybe one of the extra letters is mixing me up somehow. So Dayna, so excited to have you here today, Dayna Hammond, and hopefully I pronounced your last name right after all that build up with the first name. So, you know, Dayna and I have talked via Messenger and via email, but not actually live, and that's why I wasn't sure on the name. But Dayna, what we usually do here, I mean, of course, I want to welcome you and introduce you to Elise, but also we also get our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves as well to kick things off. So, Dayna, first of all, meet Elise, and secondly, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your background?
Hello, Dayna. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and nice to like finally talk to you face to face, I guess, Corey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm Dayna. I currently live in Ardrossan, Alberta, which is just outside Edmonton, and I run an animal assisted therapy program, and I also do we run a nonprofit horse rescue on the property. So we take neglected and abused horses, we rehabilitate them, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, that kind of thing, and then we open them up for adoption and hopefully find their potential homes. If not, then they stay and they get incorporated into the therapy herd. So they'll work with clients that struggle with anxiety, PTSD. We work with youth, women, we do men's groups, all that kind of stuff. And so, and we have a couple of facilitators that work on the property as well. So there's kind of a variety of things that go on around here. But yeah, that's basically.
It's amazing. I mean, and I think Elise is, but I know I am, so I can say myself and my girlfriend, my mom, we're all really big animal and pet people. I mean, I have 2 cats. I would have a dog if I couldn't heartbeat, but my girlfriend seems to believe that 2 cats and 2 young boys is too much right now to have a dog as well. But I would have a dog in a heartbeat also. My mother's and my girlfriend are both huge horse lovers. Like any chance they get to be either riding a horse or talking to a horse or petting a horse. So first of all, just to jump things in right away, I have a true appreciation for that. And I do believe animals have a healing power that I'm going to say 80%, maybe 90% of the world still doesn't realize yet. So I just wanted to share that part off the top. But Elise, I'll let you jump in a little bit more than me here because I do have to break away and then come back. So, but I'll let you jump in, Elise, and maybe share your thoughts on animals. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, I'm definitely an animal lover, but we have so much in common because I'm an EFT practitioner and I've actually worked with equine therapy facilities here. Or I'm not in Florida right now, but in Florida with EFT and equine therapy. So I'm excited, and chiropractic too. It's amazing. All of it's amazing. I don't know enough about it, but I'm so curious to hear how you got started and what inspired you. I did go take a little bit of a peek on your background, and I know you grew up with horses.
I did. Yeah. I've been riding since I was about 3 or 4. I'm originally from Ontario. So we evented and did the show jumping circuit and started our own horses and all that kind of stuff. And then my uncle had beef cattle. So I've always kind of been involved in that world. And then when I moved out to Alberta, I had taken a little bit of a sabbatical when I went away to university. I have a BA in psych. So when I moved back to Alberta, I kind of flipped from English to Western. And then through that, just kind of found my way into the therapy. So yeah, horses have always been kind of around and in the background and in the forefront forever for me.
So you kind of tied in how did you take, from jumping and competing and, all of those and showing to now therapy, but you did go to school for psych. So yeah. I'm understanding how the thread now is tying through the whole thing.
Yeah. And we growing up, we sort of started horses traditionally, like the traditional method. And so as I grew up, there was a door that opened and I realized there's actually other ways of connecting with the horses, other ways of training the horses. And so I kind of stepped into that role. And then through that found the amazing connection that can happen between horses and people when you actually just step into that natural space. And that eventually led me to just doing the equine therapy. It was quite a all over the place. There was not a straight path to how I got here.
But taking the back roads are sometimes so much more fun.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A little more challenging if you're in an RV and you come to an overpass where you can't get through and you have to make a U-turn and it's like a one-way street. But sometimes the back roads are far more part of the journey than just taking the straight road. So I have a question. So you said training your horses. Do you train horses differently when they are now used as therapy horses than you would? I mean, obviously, if you're training them to jump and show, but.
No, not necessarily. I mean, we start them all the same now. They all get the same desensitizing process. It's more, we kind of allow them to choose whether or not they want to do the work. So they all get trained, they all get desensitized, they all go through a similar training program. Obviously, customized depending on the horse. So a lot of the horses come in and they have PTSD, they have anxiety, they have things that we have to kind of heal and work with. So there's a little bit more of an extensive training program for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes they actually make the best facilitators because they've experienced a lot of what the clients are working through themselves. So I have a horse that I bought for $1 off the meat truck, and he came with a lot of PTSD and anxiety. And so it's been 3 years of just trying to get him to calm down and not think everything is so terrible. And he's actually one of my best horses to work with clients that have anxiety because he resonates. He understands what he's picking up from the client. And
Right.
so it's really quite a cool opportunity to just see them work together. A lot of times people think that our therapy horses are bomb proof. You know, you can jump around, things can blow up, and they're totally calm. And
Right.
some of them are, which is a really beautiful thing from a safety perspective. But in my opinion, the best facilitators are the ones that actually can respond to what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we don't necessarily train them differently. They all go through the same training. We more look for a particular quality in them rather than anything else.
Wow. So, okay. So you got this horse off of a truck for $1. Like, I'm a thrift shopper girl and I'm all about Facebook Marketplace, but I think that tops anything that I've ever been able to get
Yeah, he is
off the truck or otherwise.
he's the most expensive horse I have on my property right now.
Right. And it all started with $1.
Yeah.
So I'm curious from the horse side of things, and I know we're talking about how you're utilizing horses to assist individuals in working through and healing these memories that are bringing up this repeated response, like something is happening still.
Mm-hmm.
How does one work with a horse and help them through the PTSD process? Because I know as an EFT practitioner, one of my main primary focuses are individuals who are struggling with wanting to be here anymore, suicide and PTSD. So I use EFT as the median and the tool to help release some of those responses. So what resources are you using with a horse?
I have a lot of amazing trainers that come in that have different backgrounds, different ways of training, but essentially I just listen. So I'm very big on the whole the significance of a circle. So we have a round pen and we work in the round pen, and it's just a giant circle. So there's constant flow and constant movement, and I'll step into that space with the horse and I basically just listen. I listen to their cues. I listen to what they're saying. A lot of times, and you would know this, when people go into anxiety, it's like their brain shuts off.
Well, it's an auto response. It's like something's taken over and they're just like sitting there and they're a victim of it.
Yes. Yeah. So their brain shuts off. They go into victim, they go into flight. And so my energy will shift from just being an observer to, okay, I'm going to show you what it means to like lead calmly and use your brain to process things. And so it's just an energy conversation. I'll stand on the round pen and I just communicate with my energy, and whenever I can tell a horse has gone into anxiety and flight mode, I can cue them back into focusing on me and just trying to get their brain working again so that they can kind of reground and get a sense of what their surroundings are.
Wow, that's amazing. I've been able to, participate in some of the equine training and therapy with my clients at these, facilities here in Florida. And it's amazing. You have to learn when the ears are up or down, or right. There's all these different cues. So from a therapy standpoint, utilizing, equine therapy with your clients, I guess you would call them, as opposed to patients. Do you have a sweet spot? Do you have an area that you love to focus on more than others? I know I love working with children. I always end up working with the inner child anyway. So it doesn't matter if you're 80 chronologically. I'm always like hanging out with the 5-year-old or the 3-year-old within you. But I'm curious to know, like, if you have an area that you really like focus on or prefer more than another.
Interestingly enough, I do have a lot of youth clients, which was not the direction I thought I would go in. My niche is really, I love doing women's work, and I love doing couples work. So I love having, I'm just a very I'm similar to the horse in the sense that, okay, if you want to unpack and work through things, this is what we're going to work through. I don't have a subtle approach to things sometimes, which is probably why I work with horses, because they also don't have a subtle approach.
Right.
Like, if you're going to do the work, we're going to do the work, and it's going to suck a little bit.
Right, exactly.
I love working with grownups because, well, yes and no. I kind of love working with everybody, but I really love women's stuff because a lot of times women are just a little bit more open to stepping into that vulnerable space.
Mm-hmm.
I love, my horses love working with kids because they come with such a pure energy and such an honest energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that gentleness that they really love. And we're starting now to build a men's program. So I don't have a ton of experience working with men. I have some. One of my other facilitators has a ton of experience working with men. So I'm still stepping into that space, but I'd say probably women's stuff and really digging deep into that, like anxiety, into that self-worth piece and that self-love piece is really kind of my niche.
So do you find when you're working with somebody, and chronologically the age is pretty much irrelevant. I mean, when you're working with a child, you're kind of getting them at their sweet spot anyway. I mean, if they're below teen, do you find that you see like different versions of themselves show up?
Mm-hmm. Very much. I find I've had some clients when they show up, I often do a meet and greet first so that they get to know me, they get to know the horses, but there have been some situations where we haven't met yet until their first session.
Right.
I step in and notice that I'm younger because I'll get a lot of older women. And so they'll notice I'm younger. So you can tell that instinct is like, how are you going to help me? You haven't necessarily like lived through life. But when you put us in a room together, it shifts a little bit where the focus comes off me and it moves over to the horse. So I'm no longer the facilitator. The horses kind of become the facilitator and I'm just the messenger in between, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. Yeah, the horse will do it. I'm here to just kind of like make sure that everything goes well. One of the things that you mentioned that I find intriguing is couples therapy. So I know that when I've worked with couples, I'll actually work with them individually. I never work with couples together because it's all about the individual showing up. But how do you work with couples? Like, and I've never really heard that before. Like, how intriguing.
I usually do individual sessions separate just so I can get to know them as individuals. And then oftentimes it sort of depends. So I don't really go into a session with a plan because every time I have, the horses have basically thrown it out the window and done their own thing.
Right.
Sometimes each person will get their own horse. Sometimes depending on the couple and the dynamics, I'll only have one horse in the round pen. And it allows me the opportunity to kind of see who steps forward and how they interact together with the middleman in between. So it's, I really love it because when you're putting, like oftentimes when you have couples in a therapy session, one will take a lead, one has a little bit more of a, what's the word I'm talking, talks more, a little bit more open, working through the process. But when you put them in a round pen with a horse when they have no experience, they're both at the same level of vulnerability. So
that's perfect.
Yeah. So it's a really cool opportunity to just kind of see how they blend in a very like neutral space for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're leveling the playing field or you're leveling the relationship field. They're in a new situation and a new environment. So it's how they approach it together. Yeah. That's fascinating. How is COVID? I mean, so for me, we're working virtually and I've been working virtually for years because I like to travel. So I've kind of created the life that I want to live and then, included everybody else in it. Yeah. But how is COVID, has it affected what you're doing? Because it seems like it's very hands-on and one-on-one.
It hasn't.
Or in real time, like you have to be with the horse, right? It's not like you could like virtually have a horse in a pen.
It hasn't really, because I'm entirely outdoors. We don't have an indoor facility.
Right.
So we do work entirely outdoors. So the restrictions are a little bit different indoors versus outdoors in Canada. And so we have masks, there's hand sanitizer, all that kind of stuff. And because everybody's usually loose, it's really easy to social distance.
Right.
There isn't really a lot of times when we're kind of in close proximity. So it actually hasn't been that bad. Right. And if anything, we also do information tours so that groups can come and actually meet the rescues and learn their history. So it's actually been really good because everybody's been shut into their houses, and because
Yes.
we're outdoors and we're a nonprofit, the restrictions are a little bit different. So we've actually been a really good opportunity for people to come out of their houses.
So maybe you've been growing and
Yeah,
flourishing.
we have actually. Yeah, we definitely have. Unfortunately and fortunately.
This
we're
whole,
very much needed.
I call it the global plot twist, right? Because this whole thing, I mean, we've had a global plot twist. Like the scene in the life that we thought we were living totally changed pretty much for everybody. And it's really interesting because I actually have a client who became a friend, and he's quadriplegic, and he raises barrel jumping, or no, what is it?
Barrel racing horses?
Barrel racing horses. He's raised them even after his accident. And one of the things that he said to me that is so profound is that, the reason that we are working together isn't because he's in the chair, which he actually landed in the chair after his 2500th jump, celebrating becoming a chiropractor, which he was never able to really practice being. And he said, all of the challenges that I really find I'm struggling with right now, I brought to the chair. The chair, is a struggle, and I'm more humble, and I have to rely on people to feed me and, wipe my butt and all this stuff. But the true struggle I brought to the chair. And I feel like that's what's happening in the world right now with COVID. We're all like blaming it on COVID. But a lot of the things that I know that I've been challenged with in an incredible year of change and growth, I brought to the chair. Like I brought to the situation. I brought to the global plot twist.
Yeah.
And I think that the work that you're doing, I'm going to wrap this around. The work that you're doing is providing a resource for individuals to come and really work through the crap that they already brought to the global plot twist. Did it highlight more of the things that people are challenged with? Absolutely. It's just shined a light on it. But if we're creators, we're going to create through whatever, right?
Yeah.
If we're waiting for the world to change or blaming an outside situation for how we feel, we're going to continue to. And COVID just gave everybody who's doing that a really good reason to blame.
Yeah, it's just an external thing. If it's not COVID, it would be something else. COVID isn't the problem. COVID isn't what we need to unpack. It's everything else that's COVID is triggering.
Yes, yeah. COVID has been this incredible opportunity for us to realize, am I the version of me that I really want to be? Or have I been waiting to become this version for something else to happen?
Yeah.
So are you finding that the people who are showing up, and what is the name? I'm sorry, what is the name of your equine therapy? What do you call it? It's not a stable. It's a facility. It's a therapy. What is it? An equestrian center.
Yeah, we're called Kindred Farms. The therapy is Divine Grace Animal Assisted Therapy. And then the rescue is actually the Parsons Animal Rescue Foundation. So it's 2 in 1 on the same property. But Divine Grace is
and the rescues hang out on your property and probably get some therapy on the way.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
I did go onto your Facebook page just before, and I liked you. I friended you. Oh. And I see that you do have a horse right now, right? That is looking for a home. Is that?
Yes, we just posted her this morning. She's a 3-month-old saddlebred filly. She was a rescue from the SPCA. So her mom came into our care last July with a 3-week-old already on her side. And she had been severely emaciated, skin and bones, not fed, not watered. She came from a breeding operation. So they were basically just breeding for money and not caring for them. So the SPCA seized them. She came into our care. We didn't know at the time that she was pregnant again. So we ended up rehoming her first filly. So she found her forever home, which is great. And then on June 18th, she surprised us with another baby. So
hence the 3-month-old down.
Yes. So Surrey, which I believe means goddess in Sanskrit.
Yes.
And princess in Hebrew, I believe, or maybe the other way around.
No, so you got it right. Goddess in Sanskrit. Yeah.
She is, she's 3 months old. She'll be 4 months old, or we'll start to wean her when she's about 4 months old, and then hopefully find her a forever home before winter.
Oh, that's awesome. So, okay. So let's say that somebody was interested, never had a horse before. I have a mini pig story that my fiance and I owned brother and sister mini pigs for 18 hours when we realized that we really weren't the mini pig parents or micro pigs or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
So if somebody's interested in adopting a horse and they've never had one before, because I think that's really important too. I mean, you can, find people who are horse lovers, but there are, families that are interested, but just don't know what it takes to care for a horse. Are there any maybe 1, 2, 3 steps or things or resources where somebody can look into before adopting a horse so they don't become emaciated or they, don't get the proper care?
Yeah.
Or they make sure they get the right care?
Yeah, we have an application form. You can go on our website, fill it out, show that you're interested in one of our rescues. And then we do quite an extensive process. You have to come and meet the horse more than once, meet us. We make sure that wherever they're going is a safe home, all that kind of stuff. And then I also offer one of my foster homes. She's amazing. She works a lot. It's all energy work for her. She's all natural horsemanship. She does liberty work. She's amazing. She has quite a few clients who have never had horse experience before, but really understand the significance of horse medicine and want to get into that. And so she's been my number one person that I'll send them to. And often she fosters some of my rescues, and I've had 2 adopted through her because she's amazing. And she's just really good at being able to pair non-horsey people and educate them and connect them and really support them through their growth. So all I worry about is finding the right home. I don't necessarily, and sometimes the right home is somebody who's never had a horse before.
Right.
They come, they meet that horse, and that horse chooses them. So we do whatever we need to do in order to support that match. So sometimes they'll stay here for a few months as they kind of build that knowledge and build that experience, and then they'll move on to wherever they're boarding, or if they go home or whatever. So it is quite a process to apply, and the support doesn't stop there. So it's not like we sign a paper, here's your horse, off you go. We want to do everything that we possibly can to make sure these horses don't end up in the situations that we found them in.
Right.
So, I have a horse we adopted out last year, and I'm still in contact with the people that have adopted them. They constantly send me updates. We're always checking in. So yeah, anybody who doesn't necessarily have horse experience, that doesn't mean they're not the right home. It just means they need a little bit extra support.
Right. And it's nice to know that they get the support through your programs that you offer as well. So I'm going to ask you this because I really don't know how you met Corey. Like, Corey would tell the story of how you met. I know how Corey and I met years and years ago at a Hay House convention in Orlando. But I'm curious, how did you meet Corey and find your way onto the Flip Your Scripts Blue Talks stage today?
So when I moved out to Alberta 9 years ago. I was going through a pretty difficult time in my life. I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship. I had developed shingles in my right ear, which infected my facial nerve. So I was 100% paralyzed on the right side of my face. I hadn't got into the grad schools I wanted, was just in a really not good place. And
which came first, the shingles or the not getting into the grad school?
The not getting into the grad school.
Okay, just asking for a friend.
Yeah, didn't get into grad school.
Then you got the shingles.
Yeah, was working 4 jobs, was in a really unhealthy, toxic relationship, got the shingles, got the paralysis, the relationship ended, and I ended up moving from Ontario out to Alberta about 3 months later. And I started managing a horse barn. So I came out and started working with horses. And through that, I was introduced to Rayanne Wood-Schatz, who runs integrity seminars in Edmonton. She's a life coach and just an amazing human being. So I started my personal growth journey with her. She participated in Blue Talks, I think, a couple of years ago.
Can you say her name again?
Rayanne Wood-Schatz.
I'm not sure if we met. But anyway,
she runs integrity seminars in Edmonton, and she was part of one of the Blue Talks books. I think she was in the first or second one. And so through her, I just kind of found my way to Corey, reached out, kind of started the conversation going, and ended up in book 4.
That's awesome. So I want to go back to like your personal journey between, obviously you're not paralyzed anymore and you don't have the shingles and your life seems pretty inspiring and expansive. So what started to shift for you during that process? Because we're really, the whole Flip Your Script concept is about like, how do we flip our perspectives, our thoughts, and then our beliefs to start shifting the reality that and the life that we're growing. So can you tell us just a little bit about that, what flipped for you or what shifted for you during that time of like, basically the I'm not supposed to say shit, but the shit hitting the fan, basically the shingles hitting your face.
It was honestly, the conversation for me was around just the the concept of accountability. I used to sit very much in victim mode. I was a martyr. You know, I'm a really hard worker. I was toxically independent. Like I had to do everything myself, literally kill myself before asking for help. Because in my opinion back then, it was more valuable if I had broken my back to get it done and if I had done it all myself. So I was toxically independent. I was sitting in victim mode all the time, and I was very much a martyr. And when I got sick, it was, you know, why is this happening to me? You know, why is life so shitty? Like, why does everybody leave me? Like all these abandonment issues. And then I moved out here and I had a really hard conversation with somebody, and they brought up the concept of accountability. Like we manifest our own reality. So if you're sitting in chaos, you've invited this chaos. Why have you invited this chaos? And so that was a really hard conversation that I had to have quite a few times. And I had to really wrap my head around. Every time something would happen, I would be like, okay, what do you mean I created this? Like, how did I create this? And then you sit in responsibility and blame and all that, those fun, shitty emotions.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I could wrap my head around the fact of, okay, I'm take accountability. So accountability, I like to use accountability now instead of responsibility, because often when we use the term responsibility, there's blame and shame that is attached to that. Accountability, in my opinion, doesn't have any of it. Accountability is just like, okay, this is reality. This is where I am. This is what I invited. Let's move through this. This is a great opportunity for me to learn and experience. And so it wasn't until I started having those conversations and someone really started to poke holes in my toxic independence that things.
I love that term, toxic independence.
Yeah.
So like there's this like there's an internal conflict, toxic independence and victim, like dependence and independence. A lot of chronic pain comes from that internal conflict, which is interesting, you know, and because there's a total 180 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm toxically independent, and then I feel sorry for myself. Like, and I get that, you know, that's such a common theme in people who are like just at the brink of expansion.
Yeah. And it was really, because I've been taking care of myself since I was 18. I mean, I do have an amazing family, but I've been, you know, paying my own bills, getting everything done, doing all this, trying to build a business since I was 18. I've been on my own. And so it wasn't.
Well, you don't look much older than that right now. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Thank you. But it wasn't until somebody had mentioned accountability and toxic independence that I was like, oh, so there's a different level of, there's healthy independent, and then there's toxic independent, and then there's, you know, dependent and codependent and all that fun stuff. But it wasn't until somebody introduced accountability and toxic independence that I was like, I get it. Like, I get it.
Yes.
I don't want to admit that I get it, but I get it. So it wasn't until I started having those conversations 9 years ago, and a really good friend of mine who's also a horse trainer, she's the one who introduced me to Rayanne, and both of them were like, okay, let's really have these hard conversations. Let's really just be upfront and honest and poke holes. And that's when kind of things started to really shift.
That's really important. And, you know, you're talking about accountability as opposed to, what was it? Opposed to responsibility. So one of the things that I want to highlight too is I think a lot of people, when they think like, why am I creating this? I love to use, why am I tolerating it? Right? Because things show up, but we don't tolerate everything that shows up. So, you know, basically, you know, we attract from where we're at as an opportunity for a mirror. I talk about the cup being full. Like, what are we full of? You know, if something shows up and we get pissed off and angry or feel insecure, well, that's already in our cup. It's just letting us know what's in our cup. Right. So when all of this stuff comes out, the victim feeling, and I'm not enough, but I'm trying to do enough, and it's already in there. So if we can look at these things that are showing up as an opportunity to shine a light again on what's in our cup, just because the cup knocks over doesn't mean the wine's going to spill out if it's craft beer, you know, like, so, so we have these experiences. So as you start to poke holes in all of this and all that started to ooze out of your cup that was already in there, did you start to believe differently about yourself and see things differently from a different perspective?
Absolutely. I really started to, when I started to shift my perspective, I started to notice things changing. And so that to me, like, I'm very much an instant gratification kind of person.
Me too, girl. I'm like easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yeah, like that's probably why diets have never worked for me, because I'm like, okay, I ate healthy for about 3 hours. Like, why haven't I dropped 10 pounds now?
Right.
I'm just an instant gratification kind of person. So for me, it was very much, okay, I'm really going to work hard at shifting this mindset. I need something to reinforce that. And honestly, if you look for it, it's there. Like, it's an instant shift.
Whether you want it or not.
Yeah, very much so.
You're going to find stuff to be pissed off at, and I guarantee you will find it every single time. Or you can look for things that inspire you and
Exactly.
excite you and bring love into your life, and you're going to find those things too.
Exactly. And I started, like, rather than sitting in, like, you know, why is this chaos here, all that kind of stuff, it's more, why have I invited it? Is this a lesson to learn, or is this an opportunity to create a boundary? Which I was never doing. So it's just it's having a different conversation with myself, rather than sitting and like, oh my God, everything sucks. It's like, okay, I've invited this opportunity to grow and learn, opportunity to create a boundary. Neither's right or wrong. It's just, you do the best that you can with the decision that you make at that time.
Right. I love it. I love it. And it's the truth. I mean, hello, whether you believe it or not, it's the truth. That's how it happens. Our perspective is our reality.
Yes.
Hands down, every single time. Like, it's like gravity. So you shift your perspective, the reality that shows up looks differently, right?
Yeah. And when you had mentioned mirror, like, that's, to me, that's the reason horses are so amazing at being facilitators. Animals in general are phenomenal for being therapeutic animals, like, especially for support and that kind of thing. The reason I like to work mostly with horses is they're a mirror. So they're not there just to give you love and support you through what you're working through. They're there to show you what it is you need to work through. And so that's why I love working with them best, because I'll step into that pasture and you can't lie to a horse. You can't fake your energy around a horse, because that's the language they speak.
Right.
So if I know I'm in a shitty place and I step into that pasture, my horses are going to remind me I'm in that shitty place and I need to check my energy. Same with when a client comes in and I put them in a round pen, and I can tell when they're, you know, not being authentic in what they're saying based on how my horse is reacting, because they're mirrors. They mirror everything.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if they're in a great mood. If you're in a shitty mood, they're going to mirror that energy for you.
Right. You can't fake it till you make it in the ring.
Exactly. You cannot lie to a horse. They will not let you do it.
Wow. So there's just like so many cool things. I can't wait to come visit. I'm actually in Maine right now. So I'm kind of like, I think Corey and I had figured out I'm like 7 hours from the border, but no, I'm not coming over. But anyway, I'm close. But I'd love to come and check out, you know, what you're doing and hands-on and, you know, that kind of thing. In the meantime, though, for those that are closer, I know we're not winding down, but I just want to talk about like how people can find you when you work with couples. What are couples struggling with when they come to you? You know, is their marriage on the rocks and they're ready to split, or do they just want to form a closer bond because things are good, but they know they could go deeper? Like, what are some things that people are challenged with? So those that are listening, if you have some challenges, maybe you may not have recognized that equine therapy could be something that you would benefit from, right? Because it's not like mainstream. Oh, you got a problem, like find somebody like with, you know, horse therapy. So it's kind of cutting edge. I mean, it's been around for a long time. And I know that a lot of children with autism and Asperger's and make their way to equine therapy facilities. But what if like somebody's just having a hard time or going through what you were going through?
Yeah, we're super easy to find. I work with a lot of, like when we work with couples, it's different for everybody. Some come because they are on the brink of divorce. They've tried everything and they're exhausted and they're at their limit. Some come because, you know, COVID's hit a lot of triggers for them and they're not communicating. The biggest thing I experience with all clients, whether it's individual or couples, is there's lack of communication somewhere. They're just not speaking the same language. So I don't know if anybody's not read The 5 Languages of Love, I always suggest pick up that book because it'll save any relationship, not just a romantic.
Or just start with a quiz online. I mean, start there.
Yes, just figure out what language you speak and what languages are there. There's 5 of them. And it honestly, having that understanding of another person, in my opinion, can do wonders for trying to save any kind of relationship. And so a lot of times, like I said, it's just lack of communication. They're just not speaking the same language, and they can't figure out that they're not speaking the same language. And
Right.
so,
Somebody could be showing you love every day, all day long, but you're not getting it because it's not your language. So
Exactly.
you think that they're not showing up the way that you need them to. I'll send my families there. Like if parents will call me in to work with kids, I'm like, do me a favor, the whole family, even though you're saying that you need your kid to change because you don't like how you feel when you look at him. Basically is what happens. You're telling me you need that to change because you don't like how you feel. Maybe we should start with you, mom. But learn the language of love for your family too. You know, I think that that's really important because it is a language of communication.
Absolutely. And having that understanding, in my opinion, just it opens the door to a safe container so that you can actually step in and do the work. Because without, especially when you're working with couples, if they're not creating that safe container for them, then they're not going to get anything out of the work. So learning the fact that you guys are speaking different languages, understanding each other's languages, in my opinion, just kind of opens up that safe container, and then the work can really start.
I love that. I love that tool. I love tips that are like tangible, right? Something that you can actually like apply and have that experience, right? Because it's one thing to know, well, maybe we don't speak the same language, but what can we do about it?
Yeah. And horses, the reason I really love that is horses are the same thing. I have one horse that hates being touched. Like he like, give him an apple, you know, do something nice for him, open doors for like little things like that. They have different languages too. Some of them really like affection, some of them don't. And so just having that understanding of when you step into a ring with a horse, they're going to respond based on what they need, and they're going to mirror what's going on with you. So just trying to understand that there's different ways of connection and different ways of like opening those safe containers and different ways of expressing and receiving love is just then
it's really the key to everything, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
It all boils down to self-love and self-concept when we get to the root of it. So do you have programs that are available? Is it like one-on-one? Do you have like just book sessions, or do you have, it depends. I mean, I know for me, it's unique. I couldn't tell. Somebody's like, so how long is it going to take? I don't know. We haven't even talked yet. Like, let's set up an intake and see the direction so how do you work with your clients?
The same thing. So I do have an intake form. And like I said, we usually set up a meet and greet so that we can get to know each other, and then we can kind of decide what it is they need. Some people think it's going to be instant, like 3 sessions and I'm healed. No.
You might get results, but they won't last if you don't get to the root of it, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, I've got some clients that come once a month. I have some that come see me once every 6 months. I have some that come weekly, bi-weekly. It sort of depends on what they need and what phase of their personal growth journey they're sitting in. You know, a lot of the ones that have been doing personal work for a really long time don't necessarily need as many sessions. The ones that are just stepping into that space need consistent sessions. And I find, especially working with youth, generally it's not really the youth that need the work. It's the parents that need the support. And
I'm telling you, like,
sometimes
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll always work with the parent first, because if a parent comes to me and says my child's doing this, and this, and they need to change, my first question is, and you can use this if you want, is first I'll make it clear. So what you're telling me is that when you look at your child doing this or being this way, you don't like how you feel, and it doesn't feel comfortable to not like how you feel. So you would like that your child to change. So when you look at that child, you feel better about who you are. That's a game changer perspective right there.
Yeah.
And so it does, like, I'm like, okay, well, let's do a few sessions first, because probably not your child, right? Like the child's just being who he or she is, letting you know that it's bringing this up in you. What, are you going to be judged by your, the other parents of your kids, the kids in your kids' class, or like, what is it that's really at the root of this? Because if you need somebody to change because you don't like how you feel when you're looking at it, it's not sustainable.
You can only control 3 things: how you think, how you feel, and how you act. So
yes. Can you say that again? Because those are great tips right there. Great mind seeds.
You can only control 3 things: how you think, how you feel, and how you act.
And then everything else changes, doesn't it?
Everything else shifts. Yeah.
Everybody shows up differently. Like the things start showing up in your life. You start attracting all these amazing experiences. And those are the three things. And it's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
No, it's definitely not easy. And it's all internal. You can't control the externals. You have to shift the internal. And the second
But then
you
the
shift
external does change, though.
Yeah.
That's the cool part. That's the instant gratification that I love. I know that I'm doing the inner work when these amazing experiences and people an opportunity to show up like 10 minutes after I decided I'm doing the work, like that. That's the little bonus, the treat. Here you go. You're on the right path.
Yeah, exactly.
So Corey, we've had a great chat. I don't know if you had any time to listen, but I adore you. I think you're amazing. I love what you're doing. I love your vibe.
Thank you.
Yes, very, very nice. I'm glad that we had this time together.
Yes, it was amazing getting to know you.
I was here all along. You guys were totally ignoring me, and
Well, we didn't see you, Corey.
I'm so joking. I know I was
I know.
completely on a separate interview, just counting the minutes so I could get back to this interview. And it looks like I just basically caught the front end and the back end. I'm sure we're
You're the wraparound.
Yes, I got the, what do you call it, like the bookends. I got the front and the back, and I bet you there was a whole bunch of magic created on the inside. So
we could go back and watch the replay.
Yes, I will definitely go back and watch it. So Dayna, hopefully you had a good time, and hopefully you guys had an opportunity to share a lot of great insight for people while having a coffee style conversation, which is always really our approach.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then also I think that, we did tap into a little bit of how we can find you, but if you wanted to kind of like give us a little bit more, like your website again, and maybe if you're on social media, that sort of thing. And, maybe just reach out in a phone call if somebody wants to have a chat. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the therapy website is daynahammond.com, Dayna with a Y. And it's Divine Grace Animal Assisted Therapy. So on there, you'll have, you can meet our herd and our therapeutic facilitators, as we call them, get to know them a little bit, contact us. There's email, phone number, all of that on there. And then the nonprofit rescue is parsonsanimalrescue.com. And so through there, you can get to know some of our rescue animals. You can donate, sponsor. We have corporate sponsorship packages, which actually ties the therapy into supporting the rescue, which is great.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And then we are on Facebook and Instagram.
And also, Dayna, you can hop on to wherever the stream is and put that information in too. So people who go back and watch the replay, they can scroll down and they'll see that, your contact information in the comments. I know, Corey, you do that too sometimes as well, but it's nice to have, more than one resource.
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. And I'll circle back there as well, Dayna, to let you know if people have questions, because we're on like 14 platforms. And the way that it's set up here, unfortunately, with StreamYard is that most of this comments and questions don't come in the stream, but they're happening other places. So I got to go and round them up. So if people have questions for you that we didn't pose, if you're cool with it, I'll tag you in and let you circle back with them. I did see a couple of people commenting that they are also animal lovers and horse lovers and stuff like that. So that's an example where there's going to be comments in a bunch of different places. So yeah, so awesome. If you want to post it, you can even go into, the stream is happening right on my main page on Facebook or in the Blue Talks Present With Your Script Facebook page. Either of those two places, feel free to go in there and post anything you want. And we'll do what we can to wave the flag and connect people with you further.
Yeah, definitely hop onto the Blue Talks Flip Your Script experience page, because we have, almost like 700, whatever, people who do check in. And so that's great to have the resources available for them as well when they come back and watch the replay.
Perfect. I will do that.
They don't always know where you are, Corey. Or maybe they do. I don't know.
It's a good point, valid point. That's why I always say the Blue Talks Flip Your Script, because that's the one place for sure for this event.
Yeah, and it's a group, so anybody can come into the group. It's a free group. Anybody can join. You can share the group. Sometimes when it's a personal page, you have to like friend somebody or follow or whatever and wait for response. This is instant gratification, Dayna.
Perfect. Right on
it's dopamine. Awesome. Well, Dayna, unless Elise, because I'm the interrupter here, so unless Elise there's anything else you want to add, Dayna, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll call it to be continued, because I'd love to do another interview where I get a chance to interview you fully. So I'd love to call it a to be continued with your permission.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
Thank you. I had a great time. Thanks for
so
sharing your time too.
Thank you so much.
And I am going to come visit one day. You just watch. I'll be like, hey, I'm on my way. Don't worry. I come with RV. I come totally, I got my own home. I just show up.
Perfect. We have 156 acres. You can park that thing out near the fire pit and you're good to go.
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. I'll let you guys work that out for sure. And until then, Dayna, like I said, to be continued. Thank you so much. We'll let you run, but not forever.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Great.
Awesome.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you. Thanks.
And thank you, Elise. That was a little, I only have to, like I said, I only have to do that twice this week, but thank you for manning the fort.
Corey, it's totally fine. We're okay. You don't have to be there every second.
I know.
I'm good. They're amazing people. Remember, you're an amazing person magnet. And so am I, because, you know, I manifested you. But so anybody who shows up is going to be amazing.
It's true. True story.
Yes.
I'll receive that. And on that note, talking about amazing people, why don't we bring on our final guest for the day? And then just let people know at the end, if you're okay with it, at least we'll just take 5 minutes to wrap up. I have something at the bottom of the hour, but I do want to, I mentioned that book since people are probably saying, well, he brought up that book a few times. You better mention it. So we'll talk about that at the very end.
Okay. Sounds good.
So Rebecca, Luna, so excited to have you here today.
Oh my God, you're gorgeous
Hi.
and fancy. I feel like I need to fix my hair now.
Thank you.
Just wait, I'm going to go get changed. I'll be right back.
It's my Latina. I'm bringing out my Latina-ness. Yes.
Ooh, I like it. Spicy, girl. Spicy.
That's right. It is Hispanic Heritage Month.
I love it. So I grew up most of my years in El Barrio in Spanish Harlem in New York City. So I get the spicy Latino. I'm not myself, but I love the vibe.
That's okay. You're a Latina at heart. That's right. You're my amiga.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
So Rebecca, I want to get you to take a few minutes to introduce yourself, or it doesn't have to be minutes. You can decide how long it is. We'll, as we always say, we'll dive in deeper. But at least I know I sent you some details on Rebecca. She's got a really unique story.
I want to know more.
It's really
radio
unique.
Host and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me because I didn't know that whenever she was, she wrote in the Blue Talks book, and as I was reading her story, I didn't even know. Like, it's kind of neat. I'll just say this one quick thing. Elise and I met at a HAOS conference. You Can Do It conference, and have known each other since then. Rebecca and Shelly met at Brendan Burchard's conference, and then Shelly introduced me to Rebecca. We went for lunch with her in San Diego, and have known her ever since. So it's like
San Diego when?
When was
2
that?
years ago. That was 2 years ago in 2019.
That was the Blue Talks event that I spoke at. Remember, we were that was the Blue Talks, and you were going to the event afterwards. Yeah,
absolutely. It was the same time, 100%. Yep. I mean, I've been in pre-COVID. I was in San Diego probably 10 times in about 2 years. But you're right, it was the October one because Shelly and we brought a friend with us on the trip who could watch Sebastian.
And he got sick, and then da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, there's a whole story. Same time, same place.
Yeah, but how cool is that? Like, I met both of you guys at a conference, and people wonder our conference is worth investing in. And here's, combined here, like, what's that? Like, probably 8 years of knowing each other from 2 conferences. So,
and we were there at the same time.
Yeah,
all 3 of us were in San Diego at the same time.
Yeah, Elise was speaking at our Blue Talks event just up the road, just before the Brendan Burchard event. So, and she's not from San Diego. Like, such a small world.
Just happened to be there on the way somewhere else.
And so I bring all this up because when we sat with Rebecca and had a chat, I didn't realize so many parts of her background that I discovered once I start reading her Blue Talks chapter in the book. So Rebecca, having said all that build up, can you tell us
what is it that you do? How are you changing the world as your spicy self? That's what we want to know.
The question is, what am I not doing? I'm always involved with something. Community, I have community at heart. Helping others, I have at heart. That comes natural. I love it. It's beautiful to connect with other people and be a connector of people and facilitate that any way possible. So the fact that Corey and Shelly and I met the way that we did, I think it was just meant to be. Shortly after that conference is when I launched a webinar. I launched a webinar and Corey was one of my guests. He was the second guest, I believe. And a few of his friends that he has in his circle were also guests on my webinar. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool how that all worked out.
Okay,
Yeah,
what was
so
the
we're
webinar?
oh,
What was the webinar about? We want to know.
the webinar it was about tapping into your potential. It was about really discovering who you are. It was about stepping into the leader that you're meant to be, and that's what Corey had touched on. There were different topics. There were 21 guests. You know what, I'm sorry, it was a summit. It was a 21-day virtual summit. That's what it was. So I spoke with 21 different coaches, teachers, facilitators, and each of them shared a little something different that had to do with business, starting up your business, or about being an influencer, about leadership, all of that good stuff. So that's what Corey's was about, tapping into your potential. And that's what Rebecca Luna Speaks is about. Yes,
there
definitely. Yes,
so tell us a little bit about what Rebecca Luna speaks about.
It's been more public speaking these days. With my story that I contributed to the bLU Talks Volume 2, it was about knowing that you have something special inside of you and trying to figure out what that is. Yes, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, I have it here too. Ooh, that's what's up.
Next year, I'm going to have mine too.
I just
Right there. See it? Can you all see it? There it is.
Manifesting, yes.
And not to interject with Rebecca, I want you to continue on with that story, but I have to say, since we both showed the book, that, and Elise, you wouldn't know this either, but that book of the 4 so far, and the 5th one is being worked on right now, that book was voted one of the most popular books of the year by Thinkers 360. So I just
yes, it was. I shared that. It was so exciting. Oh my goodness.
I didn't take us off track there, but I just had to add that in.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. And that's part of my story. Where you never know what's going to happen. We just know that we have something inside of us. We have to figure that out, right? It takes us on a journey. With me, there's failures that I speak about. I take you on a journey from my life, from being a little girl, knowing that I was different somehow, but didn't know what it meant, up into my teens and all the opportunities that came and were taken away, up until my 20s, up until now. So I take you through a journey of the decades, and it's a story. It's written. It's a feel-good journey where you laugh, you cry. It pulls out your emotions because you were on that with me. I describe it to where if you were right there experiencing it with me, that's the way that I felt I should write this chapter. And from there, there's so many lessons, you know, from all the failures that lead you up to the place that you're supposed to be, tapping into the potential that you have inside of you, not allowing your circumstances to determine what you're going to become. Like you, I grew up in a barrio, I did, and nothing ever happened with anybody. My family, nobody ever graduated. In my Hispanic family, you know, it was very traditional. You get married, you have kids, you live your life, you work and stuff like that. And I knew that I didn't want that. That's a path that a lot of my family members, that's the path that they chose. And they're doing stuff now to figure it out. But with me, I would not stand for that. I would not settle for that. So knowing that magic that was inside of me, I wanted to tap into it. It would talk to me, but I didn't know what it was. So I tried something and that didn't work out. I tried something else and that didn't work out. Up until the point to what inspired me to really launch Rebecca Luna Speaks is the fact that I always wanted to be. I'm getting all emotional now.
Oh, just go ahead. Just like a spicy girl. Go ahead. Tap into those emotions.
Oh my gosh. I really thought that I was going to be an entertainment reporter. I got a news working at a local news station, and I figured, you know what? This is my chance. This is what's going to happen. Again, going into listening to that voice, tapping into that potential, like I share in the book. And that didn't work out. It didn't. And that was just so painful because you think you're on the right path. You think this is what you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden it's taken away. And you're like, what do I do now? That's another failure. That was
I don't know if I believe in the whole failure thing. We'll have to have a chit chat about that afterwards, but whatever.
That's just how it feels, you know, you feel defeated.
I know, but the whole idea of failure is so like crazy because it's really the seeds that are being planted and the roots that are growing for how fabulous we all become. You know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah.
I respect your failures. Go ahead, keep going.
So I realized, okay, what do I do now? What am I supposed to do? I know I have potential inside of me, but where do I go from here? And I have a son, so of course I had to work. I had 4 part-time jobs at one time trying to make ends meet. My son was in school. We were struggling, but I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to figure out what that potential was, because why would it talk to me since I was a little girl up until now? Why would things start coming together? Why would things fall apart? Everything that happened, it all led up to this point. So finally, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of feeling defeated. I know I'm meant for more. So from that moment on, I started watching self-development videos. I logged myself out of social media, completely detached myself from my friends, from life, from everything. I just went to work. I did what I had to do. And I was determined to figure out what it was that I wanted. So finally, after 8 months of just detaching from the world, I was inspired to really start my own business. I didn't know what that business was. I never thought that I would be a public speaker. I never thought that I would be in the positions I am now, which I'll share later. And that's when I was inspired to start Rebecca Luna Speaks. It was coaching and on motivational speaking. So motivational speaking, like I said, is what I do mostly now. But I just feel I'm on the right path. This is where I was meant to be now. This is who Rebecca is. After everything that happened, it was all leading up to this point. And when we're on the right path, the right people come into our lives, the right opportunities come into our lives. Like I said, there was no coincidence that Shelly, Corey, and I met, and we were all in the same place, and everything just came together. So that's what inspired it all. That's what happened with it all.
And here you are.
It's so, it's interesting because for me, Rebecca, when I was reading your story, one of the things that spoke to me is much the same as you. When I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I looked at those like MTV VJs. Like I used to have MTV when I was a kid, and where I lived in Canada, it wasn't normal to have MTV. You only had it with a satellite, and none of my friends had it. So I'm always watching MTV, and I was into
when there was actual music.
Yeah, but I like really heavy music. So they used to have this show called Monsters Ball, and it was on 4 hours.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was on 4 hours
Yep.
overnight. Host's name was Ricky Rackman, and I always I wanted to be him. Like I wanted to be the rock and roll behind the scenes interviewer. And so same idea. And I went through that whole thing of, all of a sudden questioning, why did I have that? Why did I have that calling if that wasn't my pattern? And, you could make a lot of excuses. Today, it wouldn't be as hard to achieve it for me. Back then, you could make the excuse, well, I live in a town with 3,000 people. I'm like, as far as possibly be away from the epicenter of any of this stuff, you'd have to literally move at a young age to make it happen. So you can make up all these reasons, but I feel like yourself, Rebecca, it was my opening to something else altogether. But when you're younger and you don't know any better, you're just like, well, how come this one thing I want isn't happening? And I remember reading your story, and you were talking about how you got the dream job. You were at the radio station. And if I remember correctly, and I'm going by memory on this, but you got the dream job, and then they actually even gave you more opportunity, but they put a lot on you. And it was basically almost too much. And then all of a sudden, maybe because of none of your own doing, they're like, well, this isn't maybe the right fit. But you were managing a lot more than you thought you would be in a really short amount of time. So you did get to live a bit of that. And then, so like I could see where you could say, well, why is this now pulled away from me? But do you now, looking back, and it sounds like it, but looking back now, do you feel like that was a part of the journey that helped you even start Rebecca Luna Speaks? Like, was that part of it? You actually having to go through experiencing it and getting a bit of it, and then having it go, okay, well, you know what? It's not a right fit right now. Because I know you talked in the story about how hard of a blow that was for them to say that when you finally had started to achieve your dream. So I just love to get your thoughts around, how do you look back at that now, having the time to reflect on it?
I feel that it really wasn't where I was supposed to be. It was great training for other things that I do now, because I still am involved with media and with radio. But if I truly believe that if you're not in the right place, that, you know, God, the universe, whatever higher power you believe in is going to shake it up, and they're going to remove you on to put you on the path that you're supposed to be. So looking back, I'm glad that I'm not with that company anymore. And it was a blessing. It really was a blessing. As hard as a blow as it was, and I couldn't really see that at that time. Like I said, I got skills and that was great. And now I have media hookups from that station. But I'm glad that I'm not part of it anymore. This is the journey that it led me to. Everything happens for a reason. Everything comes together for a reason. I fully believe that. Yes, definitely.
And all we have to do is remember the next time the shit hits the fan and be like, okay, now I'm in it, but it's still happening for a reason, right? It's easy in that retro perspective to do that.
Yeah.
But you know what, too? What I found, and you guys might agree, is that 75% of the time, and I'm being generous, the idea of something is way better than the thing itself, right? The idea of the dream job sometimes is way better than actually having to do the dream job. Like you get it, and then you're like, this is not what I expected.
Right.
You know, like all of this stuff, I thought I would feel a certain way when this showed up, and this is not how I'm feeling right now. And we get caught up in the idea of receiving it, but the feeling that we were really going for in the receiving of it isn't there. And we missed the mark on that.
And that's probably, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard this, and it's interesting you say this, Elise, because I don't know if it's this book we're going to talk about later that I read this in, or if it's somewhere else, but I just read it in the last couple of days. And it's wherever it's from, I read it before, but I reread it, about the idea that even when we get caught up in the doing of it, like the thinking about it when you were younger, and me when I was younger, about being the VJ or the host or what have you, or the interviewer, you get the dopamine from it just as if you already achieved it.
right. So really, there's nothing to do. I'm always like, now what am I going to do with all my time? All I have to do is think of the idea of it. And now, like, what? I'll just go to a brewery and, you know, like hang out on my e-bike. Like, what do you do when you know that really the feeling of it is what we're going for ultimately? And then you get in and you're like, well, the idea of me when I was a kid thinking about it was way more fun.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, it's like, you know, writing, for instance, for me, when I'm writing a book, I actually enjoy it now. When I was a kid, I would like have the idea of the payoff to me was the book in my hand. That was it. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to write the book so I can hold up my hand and say I'm an author. But it's interesting now, to your point, Elise, now I get the dopamine from writing the book. I actually enjoy it. So, you know, I love to say, what if the journey really is the destination? Well, my thinking in that is, what if you can get the dopamine all through the journey? Then you're getting the dopamine all the time. You're on a high all the time because you've enjoyed.
Isn't that why we're all here right now, is to like live a dopamine, be a dopamine addict? I mean, come on.
I think so. You know, like actually,
I'm just going to admit that's why I'm here.
Well, if you enjoy the journey, though, like at least we had. I don't know if Mitzi was on this. I think it was Mitzi was with us, and I don't know if it was or the other show that we do. Mitzi Purdue. I know she was with us once.
Oh no, we had a chat with her. She was like on our first event.
Yeah, but I don't think we had her on recently. And okay, so I had her on recently, and I want to share the story with both of you, and not to take away any time, Rebecca, because we'll dive right back into where we were, but you'll like this. It's related to what we're talking about now, about people that can't enjoy the journey. So she shared this story. Now, just for some context, Rebecca, Mitzi Purdue, her father started the Sheraton hotel chain, and so she worked into it growing up, worked for the company in management and all that, and ultimately inherited. Like not the chain, but inherit money from it. And then she actually ended up marrying Frank Purdue with Purdue Chicken, which is like the largest chicken company, I think, in North America. Anyway, its net worth is like, I think it's like, the net worth of the company is like $8 billion.
I pass the Purdue plant every time I travel from Florida to New York.
Yeah, so
I haven't heard of that one.
It's a pretty big deal, and so her comment was, she didn't say anything about, you know, financially how much, but she said, so you do know that, you know, I could live any lifestyle I wanted now, like, because she had inheritance or received a will from both, and so she was sharing that what she chooses to do, which I think is awesome, is live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And she said, like, when she was with her husband when he's still alive, they lived in the estate in the mansion, and she said, but I realized, that would be boring now, being single. I'd rather, she said, one of my neighbors is a librarian, the other one's a police chief. So that's more exciting to me. Secondly, she said, why do I want to have to deal with a whole estate right now? Like, why would I want to deal with that?
Work.
It is. But here's the thing she said, which I thought was so profound. She said there was a friend of theirs that sold his company, And as soon as he sold the company, he bought a $160 million yacht. And so she said, me and Frank went out to the yacht to visit him. And we asked one of the workers where he was, and they said, oh, he's sitting on the back or whatever, in the front or whatever. I don't know what it is. Like, what's the names? The bow? I don't know. The front part of it. Anyway, they went out there and out to him, and there he was leafing through a magazine with yachts in it. And one of them said to him, oh, what are you doing here? Is your yacht in the magazine? He goes, no, I'm just questioning if I bought a big enough one or not yet.
And he was on the bow looking at a magazine, as opposed to being in it. Like it's about being in it.
What $160 million yacht, though, and you're going, I still didn't get the feeling. I didn't get the feeling yet. Maybe I need to get a bigger one. Maybe I need a $180 million yacht. But it goes back to this whole point of, what if you just enjoyed the journey? What if you enjoy being on the yacht, whether it's a smaller or bigger yacht, but you enjoy being on the water? If $160 million does it for you, awesome. But enjoy it, at least.
I love my $150 kayak.
Yeah.
I'm good with my little kayak.
That's the point, though, right? Who's richer? I'm just going to put this out there, and then, Rebecca, I want to circle back to some questions here. But who's richer, Elise? You that loves the $160 kayak, or the person that bought the $160 million boat that is already questioning a day in whether or not it's the right boat to be?
You know who it is? Whoever feels like they are. That's my answer. Whoever feels richer in their own life. Doesn't even matter. That's like, it blows my mind. And I know this is really deep and really big at the same time, but all of this is for a feeling that we can evoke in a second.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's very interesting.
And then what? And that creates so much space for expansion. But then what do you fill the space with? Because you already got what you wanted, the feeling that we're going for.
So let's circle back then, Rebecca. On
that note, you go, girl.
Well, I would ask you then. So how does that serve you now? We've talked about what it looked like a little bit earlier, and feel free, we can go back there if you want to. But we talked about what your life was like earlier. We talked about what you realized maybe it was meant to be, like meaning what you're living today. But what about this idea we're talking about here? Like, do you find that now, all those years in reverse, in the mirror, do you now enjoy the journey more? Like, do you now enjoy the little moments more, or is there no change there at all? Like, I'm just curious, has this changed it now that you can actually go, you know what, maybe this happened for a reason versus when you were younger, you may not have saw that. Do you now enjoy the little moments more, or have you always enjoyed the little moments?
I've always enjoyed the little moments. I really have, because I'm very simple. I'm very humble with wherever it is that I'm at, because the fact that I was able to get that dream job before, that was good for me. And now that I'm able to start, now that I'm doing coaching and speaking that I never thought I was doing, I'm enjoying the journey, the process, the ups and downs and the waiting and everything you go through. I feel it's beautiful. It really is. And those opportunities, you never know what they're going to lead to, because I'm doing more stuff that I never thought that I would ever be. For instance, I'm running a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce now. I never knew that. I didn't know what a Chamber of Commerce was. And now here I am in this. With the radio part, with the media parts, the connection is a radio show called the Art LeBeau Connection, where I'm his co-host. And this man has been around. He's 96 years old. He's still on the radio. He still does his requests and dedications. I never thought that I would even be on that show, because I always thought, again, I would be an entertainment reporter. I would be doing this and that. But if you think about it, the entertainment is in the radio show that I'm doing now. The speaking is part of the Chamber of Commerce that I'm doing now. Being in front of people is the Chamber of Commerce. Everything ties up together. But like I said, I'm just very humble with everything. I always enjoy the moment. So to me, I mean, at least you had a very good point about who feels richer. Yeah, I mean, I think we all are rich in little aspects of what we do. And that's what really counts to me. That's how I see it.
Well, I agree with you. I want to hear this 96-year-old stories. One of my besties is 89.
Wow. Everybody's trying to interview this man. Yeah. There needs to be an autobiography on this man. That's not done yet. They're like, we need to do it now. But just look up the Art LeBeau Connection and you'll learn all about him. He's been on the radio.
How do you spell the last name?
LABOE.
Art Lubo.
Mhm.
L-A-B.
BOE.
I'm looking him up right now. The Art
Yeah.
Lubo Show.
Yeah.
So, I'll put this out there as well, and not to bring us in a different direction, but I really feel this could help people today. And you kind of triggered this idea as well, Rebecca, when you talk about why do things happen, and also us being able to kind of, I call it reframing, but us be able to have a different perspective on something. So a great example is Shelly just shared this post. I'd love to get your take on this. We won't spend a lot of time on it because, as Elise knows, we don't try to get too political on the show or too don't go in the.
Are we going there right now, Corey? Even
Not
just
really.
a little bit.
Not really, but just
I know now, getting nervous.
Shelly and I never even talked about this post that she shared, but she shared this post the other day and it really got me thinking because it's something. So I love this quote. I've said it on the show before, but the quote is, and I think it's really important for us to consider this, especially with what's going on, is in times like these, it's always important to remember there have always been times like these. And so what I'm getting at is I think sometimes when we focus on how dare this be happening to us, is it's not the first time. So what happened was Shelly shared this post of a guy, and he showed that if you were born in 1920, which my grandfather's born in 32. So he would have went through all this, but this guy listed all the things you would have went through, like the Spanish flu, wearing a mask, 50 million people dying, World War I, and it's like every 4 or 5 years, the Great Depression. They went through all this stuff, and it's like listing, and the picture he has is of 10 people wearing a mask in 1935. And what the idea was that we think it's the first time we've ever gone through something like this as a society.
Because it's all about us.
But look what they survived. I mean, they went through this stuff every few years for it basically said by the time you got to 75, if you had survived, and it listed all the stuff you had survived. And what they pointed out at the end was, and meanwhile, it sucks that we're, maybe stuck at home in a lockdown, but we got warm food, we got hot water, we got phones, we can actually be online with people, et cetera, et cetera. They had none of that.
We started the bLU Talks Flip Your Script stage in the middle of the pandemic.
Kudos.
That's what inspired this stage. I was at an event and I was inspired to get inspired. I reached out to Corey. I'm already doing the Flip Your Script coaching, helping people flip their script no matter what the global climate is, right? And we started the stage and we had our first live virtual event, which helped bLU Talks go virtual, on a larger scale, I believe. It was
awesome.
The impetus for that change. And here we are still a year and a half later, right? And all of you amazing game changers and thought leaders have this incredible platform and are sharing your story and your voice with the world. And whoever shows up, this information's available. Whoever chooses that it's time for them will find the information when their time is ready. It is not our business to point our finger and say they're not doing it yet. That's where I think a lot of us game changers, motivational speakers, coaches, authors, writers make a mistake for ourselves, is that we think now we're responsible for somebody else's path and journey. That's very judgmental. And how dare us think that we know what's best for somebody else just because we don't like how we feel when we look at them. Tough. Find out how you want to feel and then look at the world. I hear it a lot in these interviews. Well, they need to, or we need to do this for them. No, none of our business. We need to be the best version of us, speak our truth, share our message, and just know whoever's showing up is ready. And we are there for whoever is ready.
Exactly. Because those people are in the ripple effect that we are leaving, just sharing our story, throwing our corn into the water, so to speak, putting ourselves out there, like you said. And yeah, one ripple leads to another, and that group leads to another, and it all comes together. Who you are supposed to attract, the people who are for you, will come if you keep putting it out there. Like you said, who cares about the other people? I mean, you know what? That's their deal. That's their jury.
That's one way of putting it directly. But
no, it's a very good point. You have a lot of good, valid points right there, and I like how you put that.
Well, thank you. And there's one more little piece of it that I think is the most important piece that we tend to also not get because it feels too fun and easy. When we're excited about what we do, every single individual, I talk about we as a collective, one person at a time. When I'm excited and I'm inspired and I'm passionate and I'm happy about what I'm doing, that's where the change happens. That's where the change happens. So it doesn't matter if anyone shows up. If I'm riding my bike and I'm listening to music and I'm in a great space, I'm changing the world. So it's about changing the world from a vibrational standpoint, not a do it standpoint or an action oriented standpoint. So if you're happy girl being as sassy and as awesome and as gorgeous as you're changing the world. Corey, when you're excited about writing your book, it's not even the book that you're writing, it's that you're excited about writing it. And that's the energy and frequency you're contributing to the global change. And we forget that because it feels too fun. It feels too like I'm not really doing anything. Well, that's the whole point. We're here to play in this playground of life.
Are you guys familiar with Joe Vitale?
Yes,
sounds familiar.
I did his Ho'oponopono certification. So if y'all need some, healing, I'll Ho'oponopono for all y'all.
Yeah. If Rebecca, did you see The Secret, the documentary?
Yes, yes.
He was one of the guys in The Secret.
I think that was pre-Ho'oponopono though for him. That was like a pre-journey.
Yeah, and he has a book called The Attractor Factor, and he was like kind of the law of attraction. He talked about this in the interview. He was already dying down on the law of attraction and almost tired of teaching it when The Secret started. So he was way ahead of the game, meaning like he said, Rhonda Byrne approached him and said, we're going to do this big project. And he said in the interview, like, I get approached by how many people every week? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Once you have the funding, come back to me. Like he thought it was not going to go anywhere. And he said, and even the idea of teaching the law of attraction, we joked around it, but it was almost like he was in grade 8 and law of attraction was grade 2. So he had to go back and teach it. And so he didn't know it was going to become as big as it did. It blew up, of course, massively. But one of the things he said, which I thought was so profound, is one of our guests on the Influencer Vault said, so Joe, can you teach us how to sell without being sleazy or without salesy or whatever? And what I loved is he said, well, the first thing I recommend is you change the word from sales to share, like selling to sharing. Mm-hmm. And he said, what he gave the example of is he said, whenever you see a movie that you absolutely love and you sell all your friends are going to see the movie and you don't get paid a penny of commission, are you not still selling? But you're selling in a way that you're so passionate about sharing that make sure they see the movie that you've sold them on it without even realizing you're selling. Versus when we try to use sales tactics and we're not really sold on it, everybody feels icky. And I love that. So I'm coming from what you just said, Elise, that if you're passionate, putting that energy out. So what he's saying is when you're sharing something that you love, like Zig Ziglar said, I have a moral obligation to share this with you. Because if not, I'm doing a disservice to you. So if you truly believe what you do and what you teach and what have you, share it versus sell it. But people will feed off your passion and you're putting a good energy out into the world and everybody's winning. And so at least you reminded me of that I just think it's a great perspective. Instead of always thinking about how do I sell and what's the new strategy, why don't you just share instead?
Or just be excited about it. But I have a question for you.
Yes.
So when you're on stage and you're sharing, what groups do you usually share to? Like, so where do you usually find yourself being invited to come and speak and share and motivate?
It's groups of women between the ages of 30 and 45. Because at that point they've had their kids already and their kids are empty nesters and they don't know what to do. I'm one of those myself. So my story and sharing it, that's what they connect with. A lot of Latinas too, being the fact that I grew up the way that I did in the hood and stuff like that, and I didn't allow myself to become what it is. So there's different little niches or different groups of women that I noticed. And now lately with the Chamber of Commerce, they're inviting me to go and talk about business and what we're doing here in the Coachella Valley. I live in the Palm Springs area. So it's really exciting. And so my audience is becoming diverse with all of these opportunities that are opening. And also with the Latinas, with the ones that with the barrio, with the Art Lebeau connection, that's also a connection right there because that's predominantly the audience. It is predominantly Hispanic and it is in neighborhoods and it is a lot of families who have incarcerated loved ones and whatnot. So all of these audiences tie in together. They really do. They're different, but they're the same at the same time. And that's what I'm sharing. Yeah, I never knew. That's amazing. I would always ask myself, what does it mean? Like, why am I speaking with these group of women? And now what does that have to do with this group? How do I tie in A, B, and C? I just kept doing what I was doing. I kept sharing my story. I kept just being me, and people were gravitating to that. Like you said, your vibration that you put out in the world. And so now it's all coming together, and I'm talking to these people who you wouldn't think would realize this or think that they have something in common with this person or that person. But then when you share something or you say something, that person's like, oh, Yeah, I know Art Lebeau. Oh, I grew up that way too. And people just kind of come together that way. So it's an interesting and it's a beautiful connection. It really is. And to be
And
in the
people get
middle of all of that,
excited.
they do get really excited. And I get excited of the fact that everybody's just on there. We're all on the same page somehow. We're all sharing, we're all touching. It's beautiful. It's magic. It really is. And now they have that takeaway that they can share as well.
And I want to ask you about the chamber. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I was just wondering if you're still doing virtual events like summits and stuff like that now that you've expanded your reach.
It's more in person now that we're in person. I've been doing some local stuff out here, so it's really cool. And with the Chamber of Commerce, we're connected. My chamber is the Greater Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we are connected to the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which serves as an umbrella, as a conduit of all types of other chambers of commerces. So I'm talking with them, with their groups, going out there. It's really neat. It really is.
I was going to ask you about that too.
Growing.
The Palm Springs area, is that where the Coachella concert happens as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
The Coachella Fest. Yeah, that's in Indio. That's about 20 minutes from Palm Springs, but it's in the Coachella Valley. Yeah, as soon as you see those mountains and you see the windmills and you're like, oh, here I am. Coachella Fest, here I come.
What is it? I don't even know what that is.
It's a pretty big deal, at least.
Like about what? I'm gonna have to Google it. But tell me like a little bit in a nutshell. What's this festival?
It's a music festival. It's like the iHeartRadio festival where the biggest names in pop music and hip hop, now they're incorporating more Latino stuff, EDM, all of these different genres. They all come together on different stages and they bring people from all over the world. There's big, beautiful art displays that are scattered throughout the property. You just listen to music and you just unite and make friends with people from all over.
What time of year do they usually have it?
Usually in April. It's 2 weekends, but with COVID and everything, it's coming back next year.
Okay, yeah, well, so good. I'll make it out there.
April 15th, April 24th, and I think Shelly and I will try to make it out there too. So maybe we can catch up.
Yeah,
I'll come.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, do it, and it could be your first Coachella. Yeah,
definitely. And I'll bring Maggie, our RV.
Oh my God,
travels.
At least take a guess. Because I was just looking on it right now. I remember the numbers were roughly this, but take a guess how many people attend.
20,000.
Times that by 10.
No way.
200. It says 250,000 will be there next year.
Wow. I'm glad I'm bringing Maggie. So I have my own little house.
They expanded it. They expanded the grounds.
That's what it says here anyway in Wikipedia. It says attendance will be 250,000 over a 2-day weekend total.
Where does everybody stay? That's like a lot of people.
Campgrounds. There's campgrounds. You can car camp or you can tent camp. There's a lot of Airbnbs, hotels. You have to book months in advance because once
maybe I'll start booking.
Yeah. Look into it, girlfriend.
Or do you have a driveway? I have a 24-foot motorhome. I love driveway surfing.
Well, I would think though as well, if they skipped a year, at least you and I both, we'd probably want to get on it soon because it'll be busier because people missed the year.
Well,
so everybody
I'll just have to find a driveway,
All right.
Driveway surf. But anyway, that sounds exciting.
I want to ask you about the chamber.
Next for you, Luna? Like, is that what you were going to ask Corey?
Well, I was going to ask her about the chamber. I just wanted to, so maybe we'll ask you about the chamber and what's coming up. That'll be the last two questions. So the chamber, I know you mentioned it a little bit. You mentioned about it being, a merger of two chambers, or not a merger, but working together of two chambers. And I'm just curious, how did you get involved in the chamber? Like, did you, and I didn't know this, I saw you post that you were now going to be, I forget the title, but president, CEO, something. And did you start that chamber or were you hired by the chamber? How did that all work? I'm just curious how it came together. Really.
A couple years ago, a friend of mine, she wanted to start one out here, and she has some colleagues that have experience in chambers of commerce from different cities that are in the Inland Empire, which is the Southern California region. So she asked me to be a part of it by asking her, she wanted me to be her vice chair. And I was like, I don't have experience. I don't know what that is. So time went by, and through COVID, everything got situated and whatnot. And so her colleagues that she started this with, they ended up they ended up being the founders of it, and she's doing other things now. So they're like, hey, do you still want to be part of the Chamber of Commerce? I said, sure. Okay, I have Rebecca Luna Speaks. I have a business. I can grow my network, and I can get some clients at the same time. This was in June of last year that I joined. This year, our elections for our officers are in March. And I was elected to be the chair in March. So now I'm running this Chamber of Commerce.
That's amazing.
My colleagues have experience. They really do. And they're really helping the whole thing grow. They're helping the newcomers like me and some people on my board. We're really learning a lot, and we're making connections, being connected to the state chamber, who provides a lot of resources to the partner chambers throughout California. A lot of funding during COVID was created by California with the SBDC and this chamber and other resources that they really helped a lot of small businesses survive through the pandemic. So that's how that came about. It's one chamber, it's one unit, the Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And we're doing it. We're going on 2 years now. And we're creating some buzz. Good things are coming. We have a big vision ahead of us, and anybody can join. Just because it's a Hispanic chamber doesn't mean that somebody's excluded. It's just because here where I live in the Coachella Valley, it's a huge Hispanic community, and it needs to be tapped into. And that's where tapping into that, allowing you to come in and just get resources, and everybody wins. And the businesses, of course, supporting small businesses, making sure they have resources, making sure they bounce back from COVID or redo their marketing plan, whatever it is, educational. We're really about education is one aspect that we're really pushing.
Love it.
It's an interesting ride. It is. But I'm the chairwoman. We have a vice chair, we have a parliamentarian, we have a secretary, we have a treasurer, we have all that stuff set up, and we have our board members.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you now. At least you had the question of what does Rebecca have planned? What's coming up in the future? So maybe we'll let you tackle that one.
Okay, me or okay?
Yeah. What do you have? We want to know what's coming. What's in the pipeline? Like, what's coming up? Like, what do you have going on that we could look forward to, or tap into, or join, or be a part of, even if we're not in your neck of the woods?
Oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be in our neck of the woods or anything. But I have some speaking gigs coming up with different chambers. So once all that solidifies, I'll be putting it up on my social media. I do work a lot with social media on Facebook and Instagram. Also with the Chamber of Commerce, we have some stuff coming up as well that people can join. So I'll be giving the links on that as well. And Art LeBeau, he has this big annual concert coming up on October 2nd out here in Southern California. And there's thousands of people that come to this, and everybody's just excited to be back. This man sells out shows, and he's 96. He has 8 shows a year, but we're only having 1 so far. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. All of this stuff will be on social media. All this stuff has links. And so if you want to be a part of it or more information, I can put that in the chat, and that anybody can be a part of it, really.
How do you spell Coachella?
COACL.
Wait, COA. Go ahead.
COACHELLA.
Because I want to join the Coachella chamber right now.
Coachella.
Do you have a Facebook page presence?
Yeah,
okay.
We do. Yes, we do. It's the Greater Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Or you know what? Go to GCV8. Okay, G as in Greater, C as in Coachella, V as in Valley, H as in Hispanic, C as in Chamber, C as in Commerce.org.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll post that in the comments as well.
Yeah, definitely do.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah. See, that's what Rebecca Luna Speaks is. It's all of these components. It's all speaking. It's all sharing. That's what it's become. It's moved on from coaching to all of this, all of these resources and all of this information that I just love to share with you, that I'm excited about.
Amazing.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to have met you.
So Rebecca, my last official question, or unofficial, whichever way you want to call it, is just how that you mentioned the website for the chamber. Is there any other ways that you would want people to connect with you? Like, in other words, is there any other hub or any other place you want to send people? Just so we know before we let you run, is there any other place you would say, here's where you can connect with me, or even just on Facebook, or where would you send people?
Yeah, of course. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. It's Rebecca Luna Speaks. Those are the pages. They're connected together, so you can do that, or you can send me an email. It's rebecca@RebeccaLunaSpeaks.com.
So I like the synergy in your brand. It's all the way through. I mean, somebody wants to find you, Rebecca Luna Speaks is how they find you.
Yeah. Rebecca Luna's going to be speaking on something, so get ready.
I love it.
Love it as well. So, Rebecca, this has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you so much. I appreciate you. I salute you. It's a to be continued from my perspective. We'll make this happen again in the future. Elise, did you have anything else you want to add? Rebecca, anything else you want to add just before we let you run, Rebecca, and Elise and I close off for the day?
I friended you and liked you and all that good stuff. So let's stay connected. I will reach out to you when I'm in the area. And if you're ever in Weeki Wachee and you're looking for a place to retreat from your everyday, come hang out with us at Manatee Landing Retreat.
Where is that at?
It's in Weeki Wachee, Florida.
Oh, in Florida.
Yes.
Okay. Is that by Miami?
Well, not exactly, but like it's only like a few hours away. It's closer than where you are. It's on the Gulf. But we've created an Airbnb, but the truth of the matter is that anybody who shows up there really has an opportunity to live a new perspective, like really learn how to flip their script and start having experiences that inspire them to go into the world and really grow a life that they love and love themselves in. So it's not officially announced right now as to why we started the retreat that way, but that's the seed of intention that was planted when we signed the papers to grow this space. So you're always welcome to come and
Thank
stay.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, my birthday's in November, so I just might have to make a trip. Hey now.
And I'll be back. Yes, and I'll be back. And between November and May is where the manatees come to the end of our canal. We have a place called Hospital Hole, and it's where they come and mend between November and May. So it's the perfect time of year to come.
Oh my goodness. Can I touch a manatee?
Well, you're not supposed to officially touch them.
Oh,
Elliot,
okay.
Elliot will give you the tour, and Elliot's part of the tour is, I'm going to say there's no cursing, but basically it's like going to a strip club. They can touch you, but you can't touch them.
So if
that's
I
like
put
the rule of the manatees.
Okay. But if I put my hand out, can they come and?
Absolutely.
Okay. They could give me a high five. That's fine. I'll say
Exactly.
they touched me.
They come into the canal, like the kids will play and they'll come and float up to like the water toys and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Give me a call. We'll hook you up.
And what you said your birthday was November?
Yes.
What
November 5th. The 5th.
Oh, it's coming up.
Shelley's is November 1st. Maybe we should try to coordinate some sort of manatee event.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
I would love to. We have 5 suites and we sleep up to 23. Come and bring your people and I'll be back. I would love it. We would love it. Ellie and I would love to hang out with you guys and take you on night tours and kayak the springs.
Awesome.
So
well,
if it's not this year, next year, or any time in between, you're always welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely.
And I'll see you when you come out for Coachella.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
For sure. In April. Corey, you're always invited to come.
I appreciate it.
We tried the whole villages thing. That didn't work. So now we're moving to Weeki Wachee, Manatee Landing. You got it. At one point you will show up with family.
We will. 100%. Shelley wants to too. She just mentioned it the other day. So absolutely. We're all in. We just don't know when, but we'll make it happen.
We'll be there.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca, like I said, absolute pleasure. I appreciate you. I salute you. I thank you. We'll let you run and call it a to be continued. It won't be the last.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Hugs.
Thank you.
3-second hug.
3-second hug to both of you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Bye.
And Elise, I'm just take a couple of minutes just so we wind down.
The book, Corey, the book.
Yes, I know. I have something else coming up, so I'll tell you what the book is and just get your take on it, just really quick. So everybody else.
Let's do it.
But it's by Cappy Pidwell.
Okay.
Who we had on our Influencer Vault recently, and I heard about the book, and I interviewed her a couple times, and I wanted to check it out. But basically the gist of it is, you know how they always talk about how our subconscious mind is like 90% of the work, where our conscious mind is only like 5 to 10%.
Right.
So what she does in the book is she goes through, which I didn't know. Did you know the different states of our mind?
Beta, theta, like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
yeah.
So beta, alpha, theta, and delta.
Yeah.
And so the beta is, of course, the well, I shouldn't say course, but it's the conscious mind, that 5 to 10%. And then she said, but where the real change happens is the other three, because that's the stuff that got embedded from the time we were like 0 to 7.
I say conception, but
yeah, well, she actually says, like, she says 0. So even before you're like, right when you were
conceived, like the
conceived,
moment
was,
you were conceived, and you're
that's
hanging
where
out and hearing all the conversations and feeling all the vibes from the, you know, the bearer of your body.
Yeah, and that's where the 0 comes in. She's saying it's before you were, you know, before, like, because a lot of people say, oh, from when you're 1 to or whatever. She's saying from 0.
Okay.
But and she talks about, I'm trying to remember what ages she said, but she said, like, from where, here it is, I'm looking at it. From 0 to 3 years of age is 50% of your core beliefs. From 4 to 8 is 80%, and from 5 to 18 is up to 95. That's when you're at 95%. So by the time you're 18, 95% of your core beliefs are established. And so what the book is about is actually taking you through and getting you to start talking. Like, for example, this is what I'm going to fill out today. I'm right on this page. But you pick one thing you want to change, and then you say your topic. Let's say you said your topic was I want to lose weight. And then I haven't got really far into this yet, but it lists 5 things you currently believe about that. So it could be, I believe that you can't lose weight once you're over 40. I believe that it's impossible to have a 6-pack once you're not 20. Like, it's what you believe in it. And the idea, she takes you through how to actually, how she describes it, is clean out the clutter of the old garage so you can fit more stuff in. Because what she's saying basically is, right now, if you're a full garage and you're trying to stuff more stuff in, that's why she said it only works for, I think, is like 3% of people when they try to make the change from their conscious mind, but it works for something like 90% when it's from your subconscious mind.
I call it renovating the inner house.
Yeah. And that's not, like I said, I'm only halfway through.
Yeah.
So right now she set up everything about how you're supposed to do it. And then now the exercises start. The exercises are starting right now. That's where I'm at.
Can you imagine infusing EFT with what you come up with and start clearing at that subconscious level, right? Calming that amygdala, getting to the root of it and starting to delete what you now consciously are aware of, and then what you would uncover and disconnect and clear out. That would be like, I would love to try that just as a side experiment.
Yeah, well, maybe you and I should chat about that offline.
But you have to come up with your things first so we know what to actually clear.
Yeah, and I'm picking one thing, and then I'm going to go. And what she comments about that another challenge most people have is they do the vision board, and then they have 15 things they're trying to tackle, and they still have like other beliefs are on every one of those 15 things. So you're trying to tackle stuff when you already believe the opposite of it, and you're trying to do 15 at once.
Right.
So the argument she makes is you have to pick one. And she said, if you have other ones you want to do, just go back and do it over again after you've done the first one.
But you might also find, and this is what I found too with my clients, is that once you get that one thing, it usually starts to unravel all of it, because the beliefs about that one thing that you're at least aware of really have attached themselves to other areas of your life. And once you start unraveling that, they all start to unravel.
Yeah, well, it could be like one of your 5 beliefs could be, I don't believe I'm worthy of losing weight. And then one of your 5 beliefs goes, I don't believe I'm worthy of making money or saving money.
Right.
That's really the same belief.
And that's infused in other areas, because money's just like a side effect.
Absolutely.
But is weight your thing? Is that what you're picking, your weight?
Yeah, I'm picking, yeah. But it's not weight.
Why?
Like I'm not picking lose weight. I'm picking like become healthier, like become
okay.
fully. I'm fairly healthy now, but I just want to go up the next level. Like what people wouldn't know since our last time, I've been gluten free for 3 months.
Oh, great!
And I and I try to meditate every day. Like I have a whole bunch of rituals that serve me well, but I just want to get to a point where it's just all fluid. Like it's just all natural, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to finish this one before moving to the next one. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just trying to get that mindset of just a constant healthy mindset. So that's what I'm trying.
So are you doing like a keto thing, or are you going more vegan, or?
No, I'm just because I'm already eating quite well now, but I just want to move more. I want to work, even the mindset side of healthy. I want to just be healthy inside and out. Like I just want to have
Mhm.
that. And it's not like I'm trying to fix something that where I'm not healthy. It's not even that I don't feel healthy.
Right.
It's just I know like it's a constant battle and I don't want it to be a battle. So I'm trying that first and then I'll go to something. I don't know what I have around money, but I'll find out, I guess, when I do it. But I'm going into it an
Well,
open
healthy
mind.
kind of is that too. Like healthy is a feeling. Like what would healthy feel like? I think that we go for this, I want to be healthier. Well, isn't it like a feeling? Like once you get to a certain point, you feel a certain way. So now all of a sudden I'm healthier.
Yeah, that's exactly, it is a feeling that I'm even probably going for. But at the same time, it's like now I'm at that age where, you start to kind of every fourth or fifth night, you'll wake up with your back sore, and stuff like that from the way you
I
slept.
just went bike riding and right before this started, I was like, oh my God, there's another, like niggle. I call them the niggles.
That's what I mean, right? So it's not that you're going to get rid of them forever, but I just like to have less of them. And by the way, as a side note for everybody, I just bought, it was on my vision board. I had me riding a bike. And so I bought my bike and I have a mountain bike. And I didn't remember riding bikes the same way. Like it must be the bike I bought and I built it. Like I bought it.
You're hovering over.
Well, yeah, it just feels like, it doesn't feel like when I remember when I was younger, maybe I bought I had ones with the higher handlebars or something, but it just feels like, I don't know how to explain it. It feels like I'm riding a BMX bike at 46. It doesn't feel like a mountain bike anymore. It's like they made them different or something.
Probably.
But here's a side note story just to kind of finish things off. I was in the backyard. Shelly will confirm this. I was in the backyard with my new bike that Shelly and I built it's got sent to us and we had to put it all together. And I was in the backyard and I was like trying to get used to driving it. And I said, might as well get used to driving it in the backyard so I'm not in the street with other cars. Anyway, then I was like, okay, I'm going to take it for a spin now. And I went up the hill. We have a hill in the backyard. And just from going up that hill, I think is what did it. I drove around just our neighborhood. Like I'm talking like solid, maybe 5-minute drive, maybe tops. And I was on the couch at least for an hour, like sweat coming down, like just kicked my butt. And then so I went once since and it wasn't as bad. But like, I just thought like no matter what age you are, you just jump on a bike and it's like riding a bike. But
that's why we got e-bikes.
Yeah, that's true.
But e-bikes, there's a misconception that e-bikes are like you don't have to ride the bike. That's not true. The difference between an e-bike and a regular bike is you could still do the same amount of work, but you get to go 20 miles an hour. So it doesn't feel as much work because you're moving faster, but you still have to, with a pedal assist, you still have to assist it. You know what I mean? So there's different stages of it. So still going up a hill, if you're at 7th gear and you're working it up, you're going faster up the hill, but you're still working it. So maybe it's in the mind, it doesn't feel as much of a workout because you're not grinding to get up that hill, but it is a lot more fun.
Yeah, I agree. And at the same time, my takeaway from it is I need to get in, so I might be in decent shape for going for a walk or a jog or lifting weights, but I'm not in decent shape. 5 years ago, I rented a bike in Banff, so in the mountains. And I rented the bike. Actually, I was in Canmore, which is right next to Banff. And I rented the bike and I went up everywhere. I drove all through. I had it for 2 days, and I drove all through Canmore, up mountains, everything. Didn't even fizz me at all. It's 41. And I'm thinking my head is at 46 is not that much older than 41. And I hadn't been on a bike for 5 years then. I jumped on just like I've been driving it my whole life. I tried this the other day, like I said, and I only went around the block and I was done. So anyway, lesson learned. So that's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to do. Just trying to.
I see you on that bike riding 10 miles, feeling great. I'm gonna put you on my vision board that way. That's how I see you.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you. I said to Shelly, I said, when I got the bike, I said, this is going to be awesome. Now I can ride the bike to work every day. And we're about 15, 20 minutes from work probably on a bike. I haven't tested it yet. And after that first incident, she goes, oh, are you going to take the bike to work tomorrow? Knowing that wasn't going to happen at all. So again, you have to work up to it. So that's what I'm working on.
All right, good. I like it.
I'll keep you posted and then we'll see how we can tie an EFT to it.
Yeah, I would love to tap into that. Once you're consciously aware and you've set your intention, let's clear it.
All right. Sounds perfect, my friend. I didn't mean to go that far into it, but I want to share that since
I like it. No, that was awesome. So tomorrow, same time?
Same time.
Day, new guests?
Different day, same time, different guests. We'll see everybody back here at 12 p.m. Eastern. 3 more magical guests. And Lisa and I will both be back here as well. And I don't have anything else tomorrow, so I'll be here the whole time. So I thank you, Elise. I thank everybody for showing up. And of course, at least we have a week now to catch up again. So we got lots of fun.
I know. It's good to hang out with you again. Say hi to the family. Give kisses to your boys for me, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds perfect, my friend. And say hi to Ellie for us, even though I know you're in different places right now.
It's okay. FaceTime, baby. We FaceTime.
Yeah.
He's probably, you can say hi to Elliot right now. He's probably watching.
Okay. Hi, Elliot. And George just said, okay, see you guys then tomorrow. So see you tomorrow, George. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, George.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. We'll talk tomorrow. Have a magical rest of your day.